Warrior Lore. Chapter 970. The radiance of the sun that erupted from Jing Su's body was shattered like tofu under Zhen Qingquan's handprint. Under the palm, terrifying energy poured down and tore Jing Su's clothes into pieces. She spat out a mouthful of blood. Bang bang. In the end, her body flew out and smashed into the wall of the Tiger Gorge below like a meteorite. The huge rock shattered, and her vitality was destroyed. Such a pinnacle powerhouse was deader than dead under Zhen Qingquan's palm at this moment, causing countless gazes to tremble in fear. Kill. Du Xiaofu had already rushed into the Great Luan Sect's formation. He struck out with his Overlord Shadow, and a martial Royal Realm disciple was split into two before he could react. After that, Du Xiaofu's tyrannical shadow swept out and turned into a greenish-golden sword shadow whip. The two Great Luan Sect's disciples from afar did not even know what had happened and were already dead. Bang bang! The golden wings of the great rock flapped, and a few Great Luan Sect disciples were crushed. Du Xiaofu turned around and punched a Great Luan Sect disciple. The Ancient Heaven Sect's disciples, the General, Gu Xinyan, the Black Dragon King, and the others who were fighting with the Great Luan Sect's disciples were stunned. They lamented that Duan Ling Tian was getting more and more ferocious. They immediately retreated to avoid affecting Duan Ling Tian's attack. Hurry up and defend against him together. Hurry. Many of the Great Luan Sect's disciples were shocked. They immediately activated their talisman weapons and Dao weapons and attacked Du Xiaofu with all their might. Don't waste your Dao weapons and talisman weapons. Du Xiaoyao's redbone horse monkey body flew across the sky. He was not afraid of the Great Luan Sect's disciples' attacks. He opened his mouth and swallowed the talisman weapons and Dao weapons as fast as lightning. He then chewed them with relish. Du Xiaofu struck out with his sword. It contained the Overlord Sword Principle and killed a dozen Great Luan Sect's disciples. He punched out again with thunder and lightning. Another few Great Luan Sect's disciples were crushed by Du Xiaofu. Kill! Du Xiaofu shouted, golden light shooting out from his eyes. Even though the Great Luan Sect was a colossus, Du Xiaofu knew that if he were to back down, the Great Luan Sect would only become more aggressive. If he were to be more aggressive, the Great Luan Sect would still be wary. Thus, Du Xiaofu was on a killing spree at this moment. The debt of blood in Stone City could not be repaid with just one clear Luan king. So what if it was the Great Will Sect? He still had the 7-star Hall and the Ancient Heaven Sect behind him. Blood flowed like a river in Stone City as tens of thousands of people were massacred. The old, the weak, the women, and the children were not spared. This made Du Xiaofu unable to suppress the anger in his heart. In the blink of an eye, dozens of Great Wheel Sect's disciples were killed by Du Xiaofu. They were the elites of the Great Luan Sect's younger generation. The death of any one of them was enough to make the Great Luan Sect feel heartache. Quick, focus on Du Xiaofu. Everyone else, fall back, fall back. The Taoist priest of Changdao's expression changed. He kept shouting with fear in his eyes. Elder Jingxu was killed. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was on a killing spree. Du Xiaofu had brought many experts with him, and Gu Qingyang was also there. The Great Wheel Sect was no longer able to resist. The Taoist priest of Changdao's Taoist heart was about to shatter. Where do you think you're going? The experts of the Ancient Heaven Sect shouted. They used all their strength to entangle the venerables of the Great Wheel Sect. They did not allow those venerables to intervene at all. Moreover, after seeing that Five Lazy was killed in an instant, the ordinary venerables of the Great Wheel Sect did not have the guts to deal with Du Xiaofu. Qi. Du Xiaofu's figure appeared in front of an extraordinary young man. He was one of the top talents of the younger generation of the Great Wheel Sect, second only to Dongli Qihuang. Runes spread around the young man. Mist was faintly discernible. He had the bearing of a human king and was imposing. A debt of blood must be paid with blood. Du Xiaofu shouted in a deep voice. He directly slashed out with his sword, which contained the dominating way of the sword. The young man tried his best to resist, but in the end, he could not withstand a single blow and died directly. Bastard! The Great Will Sect will never let you go. The Taoist priest of Changdao collapsed. His heart was bleeding. That was the genius of the younger generation of the Great Wheel Sect. He could become the top expert of the Great Wheel sect in the future. Over the years, the Great Wheel sect had spent countless resources and efforts to cultivate him. But now, he was killed by Du Xiaofu just like that. Is the ancient heaven sect afraid of your Great Wheel sect? Elder Gu Qingyang shouted in a deep voice. He was in a good mood. He attacked with all his strength. The sword shadow shattered the void, making it impossible for the Taoist priest of Changdao to escape. Run! Run quickly! The disciples of the Great Wheel sect were frightened. The ferocious Du Xiaofu was not someone their peers could compete with. They all retreated together. Kill! Du Xiaofu was in a killing frenzy. He would not let them go easily. The wings on his back flapped, and a terrible golden light burst out. The energy was surging like the ocean, sweeping everything in its path. It was extremely overbearing. Ah, save me! The disciples of the Great Wheel sect screamed. One by one, the extraordinary disciples exploded. Their bodies collapsed and turned into a bloody mist. The Great Wheel sect has offended Uncle Master Du this time. I'm afraid their intestines are green with regret. The disciples of the ancient heaven sect were stunned. They gasped. Bastard, Du Xiaofu. The Great Wheel sect will never let you go. Disciples of the Great Wheel sect, retreat quickly. Among the experts of the Great Wheel sect, there were shouts. Some were furious, some were heartbroken, and some were regretful. Run, run quickly. The remaining disciples of the Great Wheel sect fled quickly. The dignified disciples of the Great Wheel sect were fleeing like stray dogs at this moment. Kill! Du Xiaofu chased after them. With the dominating shadow in his hand, he spread his wings. His whole body was overflowing with golden light as he swept away all his opponents. As long as they met the disciples of the Great Wheel sect of Du Xiaofu, blood would splatter everywhere. He was like a peerless god of death. That terrifying killing intent and ferocious overbearingness caused the army in the fierce Tiger Gorge to stop. No one dared to imagine that Du Xiaofu alone could slaughter the peak disciples of the Great Wheel sect of the same generation and make them flee like stray dogs. Du Xiaofu went on a killing spree as he chased after the disciples of the Great Wheel sect. His actions were swift and fierce. Blood splattered everywhere from time to time. Ah no, Du Xiaofu's actions were clean and swift. The disciples of the Great Wheel sect screamed and wailed in pain. In the end, even the ancient heaven sect, Yi Piaoling, Qianguyu, and the others stopped. There was nothing for them to do. More than 100 of the Great Wheel sect's younger generation had been slaughtered by Du Xiaofu alone. The rest of them were in a mess and were fleeing in panic. The president is too cruel. Duo Sha, On Ye-ing, and the others sucked in a breath of cold air. Their hearts trembled as they watched. In the end, many of the Great Wheel sect's disciples managed to escape from the pursuit. Du Xiaofu did not chase too far. At this time, nearly 200 of the disciples of the Great Wheel sect had been killed by Du Xiaofu. Retreat, retreat quickly. The old Taoist of Changdao and the other experts of the Great Wheel sect cried out in heartache as they retreated with all their might. With the Divine Array Prodigy and Gu Qingyang here, they could not take any advantage at all. They could only plan for the future. They could only swallow this loss today. Bastards of the Great Wheel sect, don't run if you dare. The experts of the Great Wheel sect no longer wanted to fight. The experts of the Ancient Heaven sect shouted, but they did not chase after them. The experts of the Ancient Heaven sect knew that the overall strength of the Great Wheel sect was similar to that of the Great Wheel sect. If they were anxious, the final result would be a lose-lose. Moreover, the Great Wheel sect was the one who suffered a great loss now. Cheng Shengnan stood in the void and watched as the 6 honorables of the Divine Light Court were killed and the disciples of the Great Wheel sect were slaughtered. In the end, they fled pathetically. At this moment, deep in his eyes, he seemed to have lost something. All of you, stop. Seeing that the Great Wheel sect was fleeing like a stray dog, Du Xiaofu turned his head and looked at the ferocious Tiger Gorge. His faint voice resounded like thunder. Rumbling sound waves resounded. Among the armies of the two countries, many people who were fighting felt their minds tremble. The sound waves were deafening, and in the end, they all retreated. Roar! The demonic beast army of the heavenly beast hall retreated, and their roars resounded through the clouds. "Greetings, President. Greetings, Rock Emperor." The desolate country's army retreated, and the mountains and plains all knelt in the sky and on the ground. At this moment, the fierce young man with golden wings in the void made the blood of the desolate country's army boil. That young man killed the honorables as if they were nothing, and the Great Wheel sect was utterly defeated. They fled like stray dogs. How tyrannical was that young man! How peerless and magnificent was he! On the other hand, at the ferocious Tiger Gorge, the Stone Dragon Empire's army was trembling with fear. The experts of the Divine Light Court were all killed, and the Great Wheel sect fled with casualties. The Stone Dragon Empire's backing and support had collapsed. Previously, the brave God King slaughtered the Tianhu Empire and the other two empires in Enlightenment City for the Stone Dragon Empire. Now, it's only the Divine Light Court and the Great Wheel sect, and the brave God King is also doing it for the desolate country. Among the Stone Dragon Empire's army that had defected to the desolate country, many of them were trembling and whispering. Many martial marquises sighed. Du Xiaofu stepped into the air and slowly scanned the Stone Dragon Empire's army around the ferocious Tiger Gorge. His indifferent voice sounded again, but it was like thunder that suddenly exploded in the sky. "Qing family, do you really think that I'm easy to bully? Do you really think that I won't kill?" As soon as he finished speaking, Du Xiaofu waved his hand, and a hand seal was formed. Suddenly, a terrifying aura spread out from his body, and thunder clouds suddenly condensed in the sky. In a short time, purple lightning began to intertwine around Du Xiaofu's body. Suddenly, electric arcs swept out from the thunder clouds in the sky, and thunder rumbled in the sky. Rumble. The terrifying thunder and lightning fell from the sky in a short time, and in the end, it turned into an earth-shattering storm of lightning and thunder that swept across the Stone Dragon Empire's army and exploded. Bang, bang, bang. The thunder and lightning swept across the Stone Dragon Empire's army, and in an instant, many people were turned into charred ashes. The thunder and lightning fell, and the sky was filled with lightning, as if a catastrophe was coming. The rumbling thunder and lightning rumbled in the sky and turned into countless bolts of lightning that covered the earth. Bolts of lightning came from all directions, and like spiritual pythons and dragons, they turned into a rain of lightning that poured down in all directions of the ferocious Tiger Gorge. Crackle! The terrifying thunder and lightning never stopped, and the rain of lightning was like a piece of cloth, covering the sky and the earth. It was a terrifying scene. The terrifying aura was destructive, and it could destroy everything. Bang, bang, bang. The thunder and lightning fell, and the sound of explosions continued. Countless people were turned into charred blood mist. Ah! Miserable cries and screams resounded along with the thunder and lightning. The Stone Dragon Empire's army was instantly destroyed. The earth-shattering thunder and lightning fell, making it impossible for people to escape. It was like a punishment from the heavens, and it made people's souls tremble. This was a massacre, a peerless massacre. Once a peak martial emperor entered the terrifying thunder and lightning, he would definitely die. Who could resist the Stone Dragon Empire's army at this moment? The terrifying thunder and lightning fell, covering the entire ferocious Tiger Gorge. Boulders were shattered, mountains were poured down, and cliffs collapsed. The clear Luan Divine Emperor's body was also turned into ashes in the thunder and lightning. Oh my God! Countless people in the desolate country gasped in shock. Under the terrifying thunder and lightning, the Stone Dragon Empire's army was covered in rivers of blood. Thousands of people were being slaughtered. This guy, whoever provokes him, is really unlucky. Zhen Qingchun was also stunned for a moment. That frightening killing intent had also moved him. Ah! Miserable cries and screams were unceasingly heard. Countless bodies exploded, and killing intent filled the sky. The vast ferocious Tiger Gorge, which was the Stone Dragon Empire's natural barrier, was now razed to the ground by the earth-shattering thunder and lightning. Even the Stone Dragon Empire's army was blasted to pieces. Kill! The three terrifying evil sovereigns, Shou Sha, Hun Xie, and Bloodvine Sha, after recovering from their shock, rushed out and started killing the Stone Dragon Empire's army. Shou Sha turned into a huge tiger, wolf, lion, and leopard. He had a ferocious, bloody mouth, as if he was formed by countless ferocious beasts. Killing intent covered this part of the world. Shou Sha's body was incomparably terrifying. His killing intent was enough to affect the soul of a new martial emperor. Roar, Shou Sha roared. Killing intent surged in his huge body, and blood-black runes soared to the sky. In the end, they turned into countless demonic beast shadows, and their blood-red eyes were filled with killing intent. Shou Sha turned into a beast tide and swept towards the Stone Dragon Empire's army. Hun Xie's body turned into a huge giant in an instant. Killing intent surged like a tornado, and he was like a demon overlooking the world. His killing intent swept across the sky, and it was boundless, causing people's souls to tremble. Although the Bloodvine Sha had not reached the martial emperor level, it was terrifying at this moment. The vine giant's heartbeat sounded, and blood-red rune vines covered the sky. They were omnipotent, and they pierced through the air like a rain of arrows, piercing through the bodies of countless soldiers. At this moment, Phantom did not make a move. Her red dress was as bright as blood, and it formed a beautiful arc in the air. Her hair danced in the air, and she looked like a demoness. What a terrifying technique! Many experts in the Ancient Heaven sect felt Hun Xie, Shou Sha, and Bloodvine Sha's attacks, and they were secretly trembling. The souls of the surrounding Huang country's army were also trembling. Ah, no! Eldest Princess, save us! This was a complete massacre. The Stone Dragon Empire's army screamed miserably. To them, it was as if they had fallen into the 18th layer of hell. Blood flowed like a river, and corpses were everywhere. The entire Tiger Gorge was destroyed. Tens of millions of soldiers in the Cheng family's army were slaughtered, and most of them died in the Tiger Gorge. This is a demon god. The people of the Huang country and the Ancient Heaven sect were all shocked. Under such a murderous aura, everyone's hair stood on end. The killing intent was too strong, and no one could stop it. Chang Shengnan stood in the sky, looking haggard. His eyes were dim, and his aura was weak. He staggered 2 steps back. Chang Shengnan felt that she was powerless and unstoppable as she watched the young man slaughter the people in front of her. His heart was bleeding, and he wanted to cry, but he forced himself to hold it back. The Stone Dragon Empire's army was entrenched in the Tiger Gorge, and there were hundreds of millions of them. At this moment, the demon god and the 3 demon generals had killed tens of millions. The rest fled in panic, as if it was the end of the world. The miserable screams and wails caused everyone in the capital to be terrified, and tremble. Du Xiaofu finally retracted his lightning. He flapped his wings and floated in the sky. Under his handsome face, there was a demon god's killing intent that made people tremble. Haven't you killed enough? Don't kill anymore. Whatever you want, I can promise you. Don't kill anymore. In the sky, Chang Shengnan looked at Du Xiaofu with a pleading look. Pain flashed in his eyes, and he looked haggard. He tried his best to suppress the fluctuations in his eyes. A debt of blood must be paid with blood. Cheng Fanshi killed people in my stone city. He didn't even spare the old, the young, the women, and the children. What am I doing? Du Xiaofu looked at Chang Shengnan with only coldness in his eyes. I want Cheng Fanshi's life to pay tribute to the dead in Stone City. I want everyone in the Cheng family to be crippled. This is my limit. Can you do it? Cheng Shengnan trembled after hearing this. He stared at Du Xiaofu. For the first time, she felt a sense of unfamiliarity from that cold gaze. Perhaps she had never truly understood him from the beginning to the end. You want to destroy my Cheng family. After a long time, Cheng Shengnan spoke with a weak voice. The Cheng family has no morals. They only have themselves to blame. A debt of blood must be paid with blood. The heavens are fair. Du Xiaofu said. You know I can't agree. Cheng Shengnan shook his head with a pale face. No one dared to look down on him, even though he was in a sorry state. He had an invisible temperament. Lock down Dragon City. Tomorrow morning, we'll wipe out the Cheng family and kill Cheng Fanshi. A debt of blood must be paid with blood. Du Xiaofu ignored Cheng Shengnan. His roar reverberated in the sky, sweeping through the imperial capital Dragon City and resounding above the imperial palace. Is the Qing family's fortune gone? In the Golden Dragon Palace, Emperor Cheng staggered back a few steps and sat down on the dragon throne. Emperor Cheng looked haggard, as though he had aged 10 years. His black hair was turning white at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the void, Cheng Shangnen looked at Du Xiaofu and listened to his roaring voice in the void. Her beautiful face was pale, and she bit her red lips. Then, she turned around and left. The moment she turned around, no one saw that 2 lines of tears fell from Cheng Shenan's eyes. Tears streaked across her cheeks and dripped onto the blood-soaked tiger gorge that had been razed to the ground. Chapter 971. An hour later, in a stretch of tents on the ferocious tiger gorge, Jin Xingchun, Gu Qingyang, Du Xiaoqing, Little Tiger, Du Xiaoyao, Medicine King Yi Wuming, Du Yunlong, Yi Piaoling, Sima Muhan, Yuanli, Shui Ruhan, Mysterious King Jiao, Absolute Sword King, Mu Mingqing, Third Fatty Wan, Ouyang Shuang, Sima Muhan, Li Shui, Phantom, Shou Sha, Evil Soul, Bloodvine, and the others were all present. Jiangchen, however, was nowhere to be seen. Disciple is unfilial and has made master worry. Du Xiaofu bowed respectfully to his master, Gu Qingyang. It's good that you're fine. Master knows you're fine. Hurry up and get up. Gu Qingyang smiled. He was in a good mood and his rosy cheeks were beaming. It's good that you're fine. Sima Muhan, Li Shui, and the others were also happy. However, they were still afraid of the monstrous killing just now. Let me introduce you. They are Anya Cha, Duo Sha, Ing Yin, Yin Tianjue, Gu Wuying, and Silver Fox. They're my new brothers. They're all in the Heavenly General Guards. Yi Piaoling stepped forward and introduced them to Du Xiaofu. Greetings, President. Anya Cha, Duo Sha, Ing Yin, and Silver Fox bowed respectfully. Back then, they had wondered if the ferocious young president that Yi Piaoling and Qin Guyu had talked about was really as strong as they claimed. However, after the prodigy competition, Anya Cha and the others were completely shocked. Who in the central continent could compare to that domineering display on the lightning-luring platform? Today, the purple-robed youth's monstrous killing intent made Anya Cha and the others suck in a cold breath. However, at this moment, the purple-robed youth's monstrous killing intent was completely retracted. He was calm and composed again. No need for formalities. Du Xiaofu nodded. He used his consciousness to probe the auras of the 6 people. They were extraordinary, and he smiled. Then, as if he had thought of something, Du Xiaofu turned around and gestured to Yi Piaoling behind him. Stone, join the Celestial Guard in the future. He is your leader. Yes, third young master. Stone smiled and walked to Yi Piaoling's side. Nice to meet you. They all call me boss, so you can call me that too. Welcome to the Celestial Guard. Yi Piaoling patted Stone's shoulder as a rare smile appeared on his cold face. Haha, we have one more brother now. Duo Sha and Yi Ba and the others smiled and surrounded them. They had seen how strong Stone was. He had just broken through to the Huangqi layer, and his attacks were extremely ferocious. Then, they introduced themselves and said, I'm Duo Sha. Third bro, Dark Knight Viper. Fifth brother, Ing Yin. Rock nodded one by one while revealing a silly smile. With his simple and honest character, he immediately fused into this group of ferocious and fierce figures that were filled with killing intent. Yilao, how are your injuries? Du Xiaofu walked to the side of the Medicine King Yi Wuming. He could feel the aura of Yi Wuming. Yi Wuming's spirit was injured, which had a great impact on his cultivation. It's nothing serious. I've already recovered. Yi Wuming didn't mind. He smiled and looked at the purple-robed young man in front of him. It's good that you're alive. I didn't misjudge you, but don't scare people so casually in the future. I'll find a way to help Yilao recover in the future. Du Xiaofu smiled and looked at Murong Yurua, Li Shui, the Peerless Sword King, the Mysterious Dragon King, Mu Mingqing, Han Xian, Guokurin, and the other familiar faces in the tent. He said, I've made everyone worried during this time. You're the president. It's good that you're back. Murong Yurua took a light step forward. She was as calm as the wind and clouds. Her beauty was different from the rest. Third brother, you've returned to the Stone City, right? Du Xiaoman asked. There were more than 30,000 residents of the Stone City. It was the Stone City where they grew up. It was the root of the Du family. Du Xiaofu nodded. I'll go to the palace tomorrow to collect the debt. The Great Luan sect and the Divine Light Court have suffered heavy losses this time. I'm afraid they won't let this matter rest. Medicine King Wuming was a little worried. The Great Luan sect was a colossus after all. Du Xiaofu had killed hundreds of their disciples alone. Such a loss would definitely be the greatest loss the Great Luan sect had suffered in recent years. Whether it was the dignity of the Great Luan sect or the anger of the Great Luan sect, it was likely that the Great Luan sect would not let this matter rest. Counter soldiers with arms, water with an earthweir. Even if we retreat 3 feet, they will only think that we are easy to bully. Only when we hit them will they be afraid of pain. Kill them until they are afraid, and they will be afraid of us. Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly. There was a hint of sharpness in his eyes. Du Xiaofu also felt a faint pain in his heart. If he had shown a little more strength to the Cheng family back then, Cheng Fancher would not have dared to come to the Stone City and slaughter them. The old, young, women, and children of the Stone City were all implicated by him. There was also the 7-star hall. It was not difficult to see that the 7-star hall was definitely strong from the temperament of eldest senior Uncle Kwang Zun and the others. If the 7-star hall was not strong, they would not have been able to establish themselves in the spirit realm. They would have been tainted by the 3 sects and 3 schools. Sometimes, retreating would not satisfy the opponent. It would only make things worse. The fist was the real reason. The premise of reason was to have a hard enough fist. You are right. Kill them until they are afraid. Hit them until they are hurt. Only then will they be afraid. Gu Qingyang smiled, showing his 2 front teeth. He said to Du Xiaofu, good disciple, you do not need to worry about the Great Luan sect and the Divine Light Court. You still have the Ancient Heaven sect behind you. No matter what, I will always be behind you. With me here, the Ancient Heaven sect will be behind you. Thank you, Master. Du Xiaofu nodded at Gu Qingyang with gratitude in his eyes. If the people of the Great Luan sect killed them, then so be it. They deserved it. There's nothing to be afraid of. Sima Mu Han pouted, her delicate red lips wanting to attract people to kiss her. We can put the matter of the Great Luan sect aside for now. Are you going to the Stone Dragon Empire's palace tomorrow? Zhen Qingchun asked Du Xiaofu. Yes. Du Xiaofu nodded. Someone has to pay the debt of blood owed by the Cheng family. The Stone Dragon Empire has been around for a long time. The Imperial Palace has been rich in dragon qi for thousands of years. That is the destiny of the Empire. Although the destiny of the Stone Dragon Empire has run out, the Imperial Palace's dragon qi cannot be underestimated. It has nothing to do with one's strength. It is the power of heaven and earth. As long as you are on the top of the Imperial Palace's dragon vein, even I will have to be wary. Zhen Qingchun frowned. The Imperial Palace's dragon qi is indeed extraordinary. It is even a great treasure. As far as I know, many forces have been trying to get their hands on it. Gu Qingyang said softly. He had also heard about the Imperial Palace's dragon qi. However, it was very difficult to snatch the Imperial Palace's dragon qi. Otherwise, the Imperial Palace's dragon qi would have been completely plundered. With the Stone Dragon Empire's strength, it was impossible for them to protect such a great treasure. Debts have to be paid, Du Xiaofu said softly. The Imperial Palace's dragon qi was extraordinary, but the debt of blood had to be paid. It was dusk and the sun was setting in the west. In the depths of a bamboo forest, there were several people wearing the Imperial Palace's armor standing in a simple hall. A slightly plump young man had a pleading look in his eyes as he said to the 3 old men in the hall that traitor Du is cruel. He slaughtered millions of our Stone Dragon Empire soldiers. Blood flowed like a river. It was a tragic sight. Under the orders of the retired emperor and father, we beseech the 3 old men to protect the empire. Otherwise, the Stone Dragon Empire will cease to exist. I'm afraid the 3 old men don't want to see that happen. The young man's eyes were trembling as he spoke. He had seen Du Xiaofu and a few terrifying experts slaughtering millions of Stone Dragon Empire soldiers. The Great Wheel sect was in a state of chaos. He was terrified. When he was watching from the sky, he was so terrified that he almost fell down from the sky. Sigh. The three old men sighed. Even though they were wearing simple clothes, they still had the aura of a superior. Chung Chao, the traitor you're talking about is my grandson. As a prince, you should mind your words. North Vanquishing Prince looked at the plump young man and sighed. He then waved his hand and said, "Go back and tell your father and the retired emperor that we will come out. You can go back now." "We will come out. Then I'll go back and report to my father and the retired emperor. I won't disturb the three old men any longer." Chung Chao was delighted when he heard that. He immediately left with his escorts. "Humph. Old men, you're taking advantage of your seniority. If it weren't for the fact that you're still useful, I wouldn't have come here to see your old faces. Wait until I become a powerful expert in the future. Let's see how I'll deal with you." Chung Chao left with a cold look in his eyes. The Chung family knows that even with our strength, we can't stop the Huang country. They want us to come out now because they hope that we can suppress Xiaofu with our feelings. Looking at Cheng Xiao's back as he left, North Vanquishing Prince looked haggard and disappointed. He said softly, "The Cheng family is so immoral. The prince is useless, and the royal family has always relied on others. Their luck is over." North Vanquishing Prince, what do you plan to do? East Vanquishing Prince asked North Vanquishing Prince. Currently, the Stone Dragon Empire has a total of 13 regal palaces. However, since the founding of the Stone Dragon Empire, only the Du family, Xie family, Zhang family, Ouyang family, Gu family, Gurei family, Wu family, and Guo family have been passed down. North Vanquishing Prince stood up and said, "According to the ancestral behest, the 8 marquis mansions can use the ancestral behest as long as the 5 marquis agree. After so many years, I'm afraid the Chung family has forgotten about the ancestral behest. Do they really think the Stone Dragon Empire belongs to the Qing family?" South Vanquishing Prince Ouyang Qi's eyes lit up when he heard that. He said softly, "It's time to use the ancestral behest." Chapter 972. At night, the moonlight shone down on Tiger Gorge. The air was filled with a murderous aura. Walala, within the ferocious Tiger Gorge, Mei Ling, Blood Evil Vine, Shou Sha, and Hun Xie sat cross-legged in the middle of the densest bloody aura. Strange runes covered their bodies as they absorbed the bloody aura in the air to cultivate. Whoosh! On a broken cliff, Jiangxin raised his head. His purple robe fluttered in the wind. His entire body was wrapped in light as he absorbed the moonlight. Jiangxin bathed in the gentle light, which was the opposite of the murderous aura on his body. In the distance, on a messy mountain peak, Du Xiaofu stood quietly on the highest rock. The night wind blew and his purple robe fluttered. His black hair danced behind his back. He stood tall and straight. Slightly raising his head, Du Xiaofu looked at the bright moon in the sky. He looked in the direction his drunkard father often looked in. Qi, space rippled and a figure quietly appeared behind Du Xiaofu. "Brother Qing Chun." Du Xiaofu turned his head and smiled. His eyes were deep and bright in the night. "Your strength is passable now," Jin Qingchun said softly. He walked forward slightly. His wretched gaze was enough to make those who weren't strong enough tremble. "Compared to a true expert, I'm still far from being strong." Du Xiaofu's eyes flashed with golden light. His cultivation had improved a lot in the sealed ancient land, but compared to a true expert, he was far from enough. "It's good that you know. This world is much bigger than you think. I'm relieved that you can think this way." Zhen Qingchun nodded. He looked at Du Xiaofu and said, "You did well today, but remember, don't let your murderous aura affect your heart." "I understand." Du Xiaofu nodded. He knew that Brother Qingchun was worried about him. "It's a miracle that you came back from the dead this time. The Great Luan sect is not to be trifled with, and the Divine Light Court is not to be trifled with. There are some forces in the world that are more powerful than you can imagine. Your future path will be very difficult." Zhen Qingchun said to Du Xiaofu, "If they dare to come, I will make them suffer." Du Xiaofu clenched his fists as a sharp aura rippled from his body. He said, "I will become stronger. One day, I will be able to protect everything around me. Jin Qingchuan's eyes flickered. After a while, he said, the world society and the desolate country have already taken shape. Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman, Du Xiaoqing, Du Xiaoqing, Yi Piaoling, Qingguyu, Silver Fox, Stone, Anya Cha, Silver-winged Demon Condor, and Mysterious Dragon King are all quite talented. Phantom, Beast Killer, Evil Soul, and Bloodvine Killer will grow to a terrifying level sooner or later. However, they are still very weak right now. Time. Du Xiaofu took a deep breath as a bright light flashed in his eyes. This was the Du family that he had been building. If there was a strong Du family, how could he and his drunkard father be separated? How could his mother and sister be separated from his drunkard father? How could the Stone Dragon Empire, Divine Light Court, and Great Luin sect dare to attack the desolate country? Now, the Du family had already taken shape. All that was needed was time. I wonder if my drunkard father has reached that clan. Du Xiaofu muttered to himself. He didn't know if that clan fulfilled the conditions he had set when he left. If that clan had fulfilled the conditions, then his drunkard father should have already met his mother and sister in that clan. That would be a comfort to him. You have already reached the peak of the martial royal realm in terms of martial arts, but you are lagging behind in terms of talisman Dao. You should quickly improve your talisman Dao cultivation and then break through to the honorable realm. Only then can you be considered to have a place in the central region. Zhen Qingchun continued to tell Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu nodded in understanding. He then looked at Zhen Qingchun and sized him up. His aura was vast and unfathomable. It was difficult to see through him. He said, Brother Qingchun, what is your current cultivation level? How much do you know about martial honors and 8-star talisman masters? Zhen Qingchun rolled his eyes at Du Xiaofu. I don't know much. What is the realm after martial honors and 8-star talisman masters? Du Xiaofu asked. The higher one's cultivation level was, the higher one's realm would be. What Du Xiaofu knew now was only the martial honors realm. Zhen Qingchun stopped rolling his eyes at Du Xiaofu and said, the gap between revered martial artist and revered martial artist, and the gap between 8-star talisman master and 8-star talisman master is even greater. It's no longer just the 4 small realms of beginner, mystery, nirvana, and perfection. It is no longer 4 small realms? When Du Xiaofu heard this, he was also quite startled and surprised. Zhen Qingchun looked at Du Xiaofu and said to Du Xiaofu with a rather proud and old-fashioned attitude, after martial honors and 8-star talisman masters, after complete, it is transcendence. After transcendence, it is origin. After origin, it is nirvana. Du Xiaofu heard this and his heart trembled for no reason. He asked Zhen Qingchun, what is transcendence, origin, and nirvana? Transcendence has already surpassed the common people. Origin is everything. It is the truth, the Tao, the great way of heaven and earth. It is big and small. Origin of heaven, earth, and man is one. It can participate in heaven and earth. It is all-encompassing. Origin of origin is Qi. It is empty but not empty. It is the same as Tao. It is one with Tao. Finally, it steps into nirvana. If it succeeds in nirvana, it will step into the ranks of the real top experts in the world. Zhen Qingchun said with a blazing look in his eyes. Du Xiaofu heard this and his blood boiled a little for no reason. He seemed to understand but not understand. In this world, only those who are really talented can enter the ranks of martial honors and become the top experts in the world. But most of the martial honors stay at this level for their whole lives. Transcendence, origin, and nirvana. Any one of these steps is enough to stop the top geniuses. How difficult is it to succeed in nirvana? It is as difficult as ascending to heaven. As Zhen Qingchun spoke, there was a lingering fear in his eyes. He knew best how difficult it was. In this world, martial honors and 8-star talisman masters were blocked by transcendence, origin, and nirvana. Countless martial honors and 8-star talisman masters eventually exhausted their lifespans and were unable to obtain new vitality. In the end, their oil lamps dried up and they died. Your master, Gu Qingyang, is very talented. He is now a origin martial honor. Jing Su, who I killed in the day, has already stepped into nirvana. He is the top expert in the Great Luin sect. I am afraid the Great Luin sect must be going crazy now. Zhen Qingchun continued with a smile in his eyes. Raising his head to look at Zhen Qingchun, Du Xiaofu's eyes flashed with golden light and faint electric arcs. He immediately asked, "Brother Qingchun, what is your cultivation level now?" Du Xiaofu was shocked. Jing Su was killed by his big brother, Zhen Qingchun, with one palm. How terrifying was his big brother, Zhen Qingchun's strength. However, he was sure that a Nirvana martial honor from the Great Luan sect had been killed. Such a heavy loss was enough to drive the Great Luan sect crazy. I am considered a half-step 9-star talisman master. I am almost a real 9-star talisman master. It is all thanks to the incomplete cultivation technique that you gave me in the Boundless Wood. Otherwise, I would not have been able to reach the small success of Nirvana in the mysterious divine pagoda. Zhen Qingchun said to Du Xiaofu. That mysterious, incomplete cultivation technique was a precious treasure. The benefits to the primordial spirit were beyond imagination. If not for that, he would not have recovered so quickly and would not have taken the opportunity to step into the half-step 9-star realm. A half-step 9-star realm was already beyond martial honors. Only those who had stepped into the 9-star talisman master knew how different a half-step 9-star talisman master was. Back then, you were undergoing nirvana in the mysterious divine pagoda. Didn't you encounter an accident during your cultivation? Du Xiaofu guessed that the mysterious divine pagoda should be the mysterious small pagoda that Big Brother Zhen Qingchun possessed. Back then, when Big Brother Qingchun underwent nirvana in the mysterious divine pagoda, he had the cultivation of an 8-star talisman master. No wonder it was said that the little tiger, who had just ascended to the pulse spirit realm, was not even qualified to be a mount. When I was undergoing nirvana, there was an accident. Everything was related to the cultivation technique that I originally cultivated. That cultivation technique is one of the most unique cultivation techniques in the world. It can change a person from old to young, just like the cycle of reincarnation. My nirvana was obstructed, so in the end, I went astray and went crazy. After that, I met you. Zhen Qingchun said with a bitter smile. Back then, you were too wretched. Du Xiaofu also smiled. He would never forget the first time he met Big Brother Zhen Qingchun. That wretched smile on that little face of his almost scared him to death when he said, "Hello, can I get to know you?" It was no wonder that outsiders called Big Brother Zhen Qingchun a prodigy of the sacred array. It was probably directly related to the cultivation technique that Big Brother Zhen Qingchun cultivated. You're the wretched one. Your whole family is wretched. Zhen Qingchun glared fiercely at Du Xiaofu. He tidied his clothes and ran his fingers through his hair. How was he wretched? If one looked carefully, he was still very charming. Big Brother Qingchun, why did you undergo nirvana in the mysterious divine pagoda back then? Du Xiaofu did not argue with Zhen Qingchun. He could not beat Zhen Qingchun now, so he did not want to be taught a lesson in the future. Hearing Du Xiaofu's question, Zhen Qingchun was instantly stunned. His face flushed red, as if he had recalled the most unbearable past. Zhen Qingchun looked at Du Xiaofu and quickly said to Du Xiaofu, "Xiaofu, you still don't know what realm comes after nirvana, right? Let me tell you, after nirvana martial supremacy is the martial domain realm. Once you step into the martial domain quintessence, you can form your own domain and control the void. They are the true experts in this world." Martial domain realm. Du Xiaofu's eyes moved. He then looked at Zhen Qingchun and asked, "You still haven't said how you underwent nirvana in the mysterious divine pagoda back then?" Chapter 973. Zhen Qingchun glared at Du Xiaofu, then fiercely glared at Du Xiaofu. In the end, he secretly turned his gaze and said, "Someone is looking for you. I'll take my leave first." As soon as he finished speaking, Zhen Qingchun's figure had already disappeared. Du Xiaofu was stunned. He felt the flickering gaze in his big brother Zhen Qingchun's eyes. He guessed that something unusual must have happened. Then, Du Xiaofu saw a beautiful figure coming from not far away. Her body was light and tender, and she arrived in front of him in a moment. A faint fragrance assailed his nostrils, and her temperament was antique. It was Murong Yurua. "Why are you out so late?" Du Xiaofu looked at the woman in front of him. She looked like she had walked out of a painting. Her antique and beautiful face hadn't changed in the slightest over the years, but there was an additional majestic temperament. This woman was slightly enchanting. Her charm was rich, and she was different from the rest. It was enough to make any man lose his soul. I came out for a walk. I didn't expect you to be here. Murong Yurua raised her head and looked at Du Xiaofu. Her eyes were filled with spiritual light, and there were faint ripples. Her eyelids fluttered. After hesitating for a moment, her red lips parted slightly. She said, "Don't you feel that you didn't control your anger today? You're trying to say that I killed too many people today, right?" Du Xiaofu smiled. He knew how intelligent Murong Yurua was. Then, a sharp golden light flashed across his eyes. He said softly, "I just want to tell some people that if they provoke me, they will have to pay the price." "Perhaps you're right." Murong Yurua smiled bitterly. Then, a complicated look flashed across her eyes. She hesitated for a moment, then said, "You're the leader of the World Alliance, the president of the World Society, the Hall Master of the Heavenly Beast Hall, and the ruler of the desolate country. Sometimes, it's more useful to make people fear you than to make people respect you. However, I hope that your original intentions won't change." "Yes, I will remember." Du Xiaofu nodded at Murong Yurua. Murong Yurua raised her eyes slightly and smiled. Then, she whispered to Du Xiaofu, "Is there any news about Xingyu recently?" Du Xiaofu thought of that little girl. There had been no news of her all these years. She must have grown up by now. "After I'm done with the recent matters, I'll think of a way to find out more about Xingyu," Du Xiaofu said. Murong Yurua half closed her eyes and looked at the moon in the sky. That girl should have grown up by now. At night, the bright moon hung high in the sky. Under the reflection of the stars and the moon, the eaves and tiles of the Golden Dragon Palace, as well as the beasts on the ridges, shone with sparkling light, appearing mysterious and quiet. From afar, the magnificent Golden Dragon Palace was like a golden island in the moonlight. "Father, did you ask Third Brother to invite the 3 old kings?" Cheng Shengnan walked into the Golden Dragon Palace. His face was pale as he looked at Emperor Cheng. Emperor Cheng raised his head and looked at Cheng Shengnan. Before he could speak, a voice sounded, "I discussed it with your father." A figure walked out with the voice. He was wrapped in a faint golden light, and an invisible pressure filled the air. He looked to be in his 80s. Among his long black hair, there were a few strands of golden hair that were very eye-catching. It was the Emperor of the Stone Dragon Empire, Cheng Fanshi. "Grandfather, have you finished your training?" Cheng Shengnan raised his eyes, but his pale face looked haggard. "Yes, I've finished my training." Cheng Fanyi's eyes were deep and rippling like the vast ocean. His aura seemed to be much stronger than before. He had finally made a breakthrough during this period of time. However, there was not the slightest hint of joy on his old face. Looking at Cheng Shengnan, Cheng Fanshi said, "Our Cheng family has reached the most critical moment. I hope the North Vanquishing Prince and the others can stop the Du family's killer tomorrow." Cheng Shengnan looked at Cheng Fanshi and sighed. "Perhaps we shouldn't invite the 3 old kings at this time." Instead, Cheng Shengnan looked at her grandfather helplessly and didn't continue. What could she do? The one in front of her was her grandfather. Could she say that her grandfather should face them? After all, the tens of thousands of lives in Stone City were caused by her grandfather. Du Xiaofu's anger also came from Stone City. Perhaps if her grandfather faced them personally, the Stone Dragon Empire and the Cheng family would have a chance to survive. However, Cheng Shengnan knew that she couldn't say it. There were some things that she couldn't say. "If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have nurtured a tiger." Cheng Fanshi's eyes were cold and his old face was solemn. If he hadn't nurtured a tiger back then, the Stone Dragon Empire and the Cheng family would have fallen to such a state today. "Shengnan, can you contact the Great Luan sect and the Divine Light Court as soon as possible?" Cheng Fanshi asked Cheng Shengnan. Cheng Shengnan shook her head and said to Cheng Fanshi, "It's useless even if you contact the Great Luan sect. They won't truly be at odds with the ancient Heaven sect for our Stone Dragon Empire. The Divine Light Court is now entangled with the 7-star Hall. This time, 6 venerable experts have been killed. I can't go back and explain. The Great Luan sect, the Divine Light Court, all of them are giants. They talk big, but at the critical moment, even the little bastard of the Du family can't do anything to them." Cheng Fanwen was furious, and his eyes were cold. "Shengnan, Prepare for the worst tomorrow. When the time comes, you have to take your brother and sister to the Divine Light Court, or the Great Luan sect. The three of you must leave. Emperor Cheng sighed and said to Cheng Shengnan. Cheng Shengnan didn't say anything. She looked at Cheng Fanshi and Emperor Cheng, and then walked out of the Golden Dragon Palace. At night, the Milky Way was resplendent, enveloping the palace and casting its light on the long, winding corridor. The fragrance of flowers on both sides of the corridor filled the night sky. "Sister, you're looking for me?" A clear and gentle voice was heard, and a beautiful figure came gently. Under her slender eyelashes, her big eyes sparkled like black gemstones under the night sky. It was the second princess, Cheng Yin. Looking at the girl in front of her, whose hair was black and shiny and fell to her slim waist, Cheng Shengnan's haggard and pale face squeezed out a smile. She said softly, "Promise me, if the Cheng family really comes to an end tomorrow, you must take third brother and leave in the chaos. You must leave the Cheng family's bloodline." "Sister, is it really the end?" Cheng Yan's clear eyes were dignified but extremely calm at this moment. Dragons have reverse scales, and the Stone City is his reverse scale. Grandfather really shouldn't have gone to the Stone City. Cheng Shengnan sighed and looked at the moonlight. Her clear face was somewhat empty. Cheng Yin didn't say anything and stood quietly. After a while, she looked at her haggard sister and raised her eyelashes. She asked, "Sister, do you regret it? Maybe you shouldn't have made such a choice. Maybe the result today would be different." "I don't quite understand what you're saying." Hearing this, Cheng Shengnan raised her eyebrows slightly and said softly. Looking at her sister in front of her, Cheng Yin looked at her quietly and said, "I'm your sister. You can hide it from others, but you can't hide it from me." Her voice paused for a moment, and Cheng Yin continued, "Sister, I'm actually a little angry at you. I'm angry at you for making such a choice. But I also feel sorry for you. I feel sorry for you because you had no other choice. I feel sorry for you being born in the imperial family and being the eldest daughter of the Cheng family." Hearing Cheng Yan's words, Cheng Shengnan's eyes trembled slightly. She raised her hand and stroked her sister's black hair. She gently pursed her lips and smiled, but there was a trace of sadness that couldn't be revealed. She said softly, "Remember, if tomorrow really comes to the end, you must take third brother with you." Cheng Yin looked at Cheng Shengnan and asked, "What about you?" Cheng Shengnan's pale face showed a faint smile, still moving. Her bright eyes still had that kind of soul-stirring look, making people look at her ethereal and distant. She said softly, "Second sister, you must remember one thing. It's useless to rely on others. People can only rely on themselves. You must remember." With that, Cheng Shengnan left. Cheng Yin stood quietly under the moonlight. After a long time, she murmured, "Although I can only rely on myself, if I can meet someone who can rely on me, I don't want to miss it." That night, in Dragon City, everyone was in a state of panic. The rich and powerful officials, nobles and ministers were all sitting on pins and needles. They were afraid that the barren country would start a massacre the next day. In the Tiger Gorge, the brave God King and his generals slaughtered tens of millions of soldiers from the Stone Dragon Empire. That kind of slaughter caused blood to flow on the streets of Dragon City. The air was filled with a murderous aura that made people tremble in fear. Some nobles and ministers wanted to leave the city, only to find that the city had been sealed off. In Dragon City, many civilians were secretly happy. The Cheng family was immoral and made the old kings retire. The news had already spread throughout the world, and people were talking about it in private. Many people were unhappy, but in Dragon City, they didn't dare to show it. They could only hide it in their hearts. The last army of the Cheng family in Dragon City was even more frightened. Some of the generals and soldiers started to flee in the night. With the people's hearts unstable, the army was defeated. It was unstoppable. When the news reached the Golden Dragon Palace, Emperor Cheng's hair turned even whiter. It was early in the morning, but the first ray of light rose from the horizon in the east. Whoosh! Whoosh! In the entire Stone City, countless people's hearts were beating faster as they looked outside Dragon City. In everyone's eyes, there was a group of about 1,000 people walking in the air. Wherever the 1,000 people passed, the wind blew and clouds surged. Then, they went straight to the palace. That's the brave god king, the current king of the barren country. They went straight to the palace. It seems like they don't plan to attack the city. Countless people in Dragon City were shocked. Some started to walk toward the palace, while others didn't dare to get close. In the vast palace, the morning sun shone down, emitting a peaceful and majestic aura. It shone with a holy light. Whoosh! Whoosh! Suddenly, many gates in the palace opened. Countless armored figures rushed out and covered the outside of the palace. There were at least tens of thousands of them. Whoosh! Whoosh! At the same time, in the distant sky, over 1,000 figures landed in front of the palace square. They were Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoqing, Du Xiaoyao, Little Tiger, Zhen Qingchun, Phantom, Jiangqin, Gu Qingyang, Medicine King Yi Wuming, Yuanli, Sima Muhan, Yi Piaoling, Shui Ruhan, and other experts from the Du family, the World Society, and the Ancient Heaven sect. The arrival of these 1,000 figures caused the space to tremble. The tens of thousands of people outside the palace trembled for no reason. Their legs began to tremble, and the celestial qi and blood in their bodies froze. Du Xiaofu stepped into the air and stood in front. When he came to the palace again, he also felt the presence of a suppressive force. It was the palace's dragon aura. In the vast palace, the palace's dragon aura was dense. It was the emperor's aura, and people couldn't help but be in awe. The palace's dragon aura gathered the country's providence and dragon veins. This was the heart of the country. The Stone Dragon Empire had existed for thousands of years, and the palace's dragon aura was extremely dense. Whoosh! Whoosh! Suddenly, hundreds of figures appeared in the sky above the palace. They were the nobles and the last experts of the Cheng family's direct descendants. Their expressions were cold and murderous. Cheng Shengnan, Cheng Yin, and Cheng Chao were among them. The person in the lead had a majestic aura. The palace's dragon aura lingered around him. It was the old emperor, Cheng Fanshi. Du Xiaofu, you were once a king of the Stone Dragon Empire and a descendant of the Du family. The Stone Dragon Empire treated you well. Now, you want to usurp the throne? Is this treacherous? Cheng Fanshi looked at Du Xiaofu, who was in the air in front of him, and shouted with an ugly expression. Chapter 974. Shameless old man. I should have killed you back then. Come out if you dare. Du Xiaoqing shouted. If she had killed that old man before going to the sealed ancient land, there wouldn't have been a bloodbath in Stone City. How dare you? Cheng Fantiang's face was cold and gloomy, but he did not dare to walk out of the palace. Without the protection of the Imperial Palace's dragon energy, he knew that he was no match for Du Xiaoqing's by Feng Divine Bird Body. North Vanquishing King, East Vanquishing King, South Vanquishing King, West Vanquishing King, Middle Vanquishing King, Commander King, and Xing King are here. At a corner of the palace, a loud shout resounded. A huge crowd came, and many powerful auras rippled. It was the North Vanquishing King and the other kings who had retired. The West Vanquishing King was a title of the Ghost King Palace. The Middle Vanquishing King was a title of the Shaman King Palace. The Commander King was a title of the Gu King Palace, and the Xing King was a title of the Gua King Palace. Their titles were passed down from the founding of the Stone Dragon Empire. They were extraordinary. They were the Iron Hat Kings. Their ancestors had followed the Cheng family's ancestor to establish the Stone Dragon Empire. The group of kings came. Among the familiar figures, Ouyang Ling and Yuan Shanshan were behind the South Vanquishing King, while Xie Fei was behind the North Vanquishing King. The hundreds of figures behind them were all experts from the various king palaces. There were also many powerful generals and marquises. They were the loyal followers of the old kings. Grandpa Xie. Seeing the North Vanquishing King and the others, Du Xiaofu frowned slightly. That's the North Vanquishing King and the South Vanquishing King. Didn't those kings retire? Why are they all here today? Are they here to protect the country? It's said that the kings have a close relationship with the king of the barren country, the brave god king of the Stone Dragon Empire. Their descendants even fought side by side with the barren country. When they saw the kings, some people in the crowd of onlookers from Dragon City who had gathered in the distance started whispering to each other. Kid, it's good that you're alive. You scared me to death. North Vanquishing Prince came to Du Xiaofu at once. At that moment, Lao Wang's cultivation had already reached the initial stage of the martial emperor realm. This was because the great rock blood essence in his body had played a huge role. I'm fine. Sorry for making Grandpa Xia worry. Du Xiaofu bowed. In his heart, Lao Wang had always been like a real grandfather. It's good that you're fine. Sealing the ancient ground and participating in the genius tournament has brought glory to our Tianwu Academy. Well done. East Vanquishing Prince and South Vanquishing Prince stepped forward. They were from Tianwu Academy as well. Du Xiaofu nodded and nodded to the other kings. Kings of the Stone Dragon Empire, please protect your empire in the face of a crisis. The old Emperor Cheng Fanshi's eyes moved. His voice resounded through the entire Dragon City, reverberating through the clouds. When he heard this, Du Xiaofu's expression changed slightly. If the elders stopped him today, what should he do? Ouyang Shuang, the general, Gu Xinyan, Guo Xiaofeng, Wu Kei, and Gu Wa's expressions changed at the same time. If the elders stopped them, what should they do? What should they do? The entire Dragon City looked at the elders, waiting for them to express their opinions. North Vanquishing Prince looked around. His gaze swept past the Cheng family's old emperor, Cheng Fanshi, and the others. Then, he looked at Du Xiaofu and gently patted Du Xiaofu's shoulder, saying, "Child, this old man told you before that as long as I'm here, I won't allow anyone to bully you in Dragon City. This old man's body is getting stronger and stronger. It's time for me to do something." As soon as he finished speaking, North Vanquishing Prince looked around and then at the Imperial Palace. At that moment, the elders' expressions turned serious. North Vanquishing Prince, South Vanquishing Prince, East Vanquishing Prince, and the others, a total of 7 elders, were all looking at the Imperial Palace. At this moment, Old Emperor Cheng Fanshi, First Princess Cheng Xingnan, and Second Princess Cheng Yin seemed to have sensed something. Their expressions changed and their eyes began to flicker. The last ancestral teaching of the Stone Dragon Empire is that if one day, the descendants of the Cheng family lose the support of the people and are not worthy of the throne, then the 8 elders will have the right to appoint a new emperor. North Vanquishing Prince shouted. His voice reverberated throughout Dragon City and resounded through the clouds. Today, the Cheng family has led a wolf into the house and suppressed the loyal and virtuous. The people are not loyal and are no longer worthy of the throne. We, the 7 elders, have discussed and unanimously agreed to abolish the Cheng family and appoint a new emperor. His majestic voice reverberated, causing countless people in Dragon City to tremble. No one expected such a change. A group of elders wanted to abolish Emperor Cheng and appoint a new emperor. Du Xiaofu and the others were also astonished. They didn't know that the Stone Dragon Empire had such an ancestral teaching. As soon as he finished speaking, the old Emperor Cheng Fantiang's expression changed drastically. Cheng Fanshi naturally knew about this ancestral teaching. He originally thought that the North Vanquishing Prince and the others would come out and suppress Du Xiaofu and obtain a slight chance of survival. However, Cheng Fanshi didn't expect that the North Vanquishing Prince and the other elders would come with such a result. First Princess Cheng Shengnan and Second Princess Cheng Yan's expressions changed. Third Prince Cheng Chao's face suddenly turned pale. He didn't expect this result. You are all traitors. You colluded with that little bastard. This is treason. Old Emperor Cheng Fanshi was furious and berated the North Vanquishing Prince, South Vanquishing Prince, and East Vanquishing Prince. Cheng Fanshi, repent and be saved. The North Vanquishing Prince took several steps forward and arrived in front of the Imperial Palace. He looked directly at Cheng Fanshi and said, "This is the result of the 7 kings' discussion. From now on, the Stone Dragon Empire will appoint a new emperor. Please hand over the Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal. You should know best that the Stone Dragon Empire doesn't only belong to the Cheng family. Xie Tianhong, you are committing treason." Cheng Fanshi was furious. He knew that he couldn't let Xie Tianhong live. Otherwise, even if he could preserve the Stone Dragon Empire today, he would lose the Emperor's authority in the future. The Cheng family had controlled the Stone Dragon Empire for thousands of years. How could they hand over the Emperor's authority? All these years, the Cheng family had been secretly trying to sow discord between the various princes. They were afraid that one day, The Chung family would be threatened by the last ancestral teaching. It was always an invisible sword hanging high in the sky, making the imperial family uneasy. However, Chung Fancher didn't expect that the thing he was most worried about would happen. "Those who commit treason shall be executed," Chung Fancher shouted. He was still dignified at this moment. With a shake of his hand, a battle saber appeared in his hand. This battle saber was the peak high-grade Taoist weapon that Dongli Chihuang had obtained from Guojanya. In the end, he had given it to Cheng Fancher as a gift. Boom! As soon as the battle saber appeared, a terrifying aura erupted. It even brought along the Imperial Palace's Dragon Chi. At this moment, Cheng Fancher was also a martial royal realm Nirvana realm martial emperor. He slashed down with his saber, almost tearing the void apart. In an instant, it spread to the front of the North Vanquishing Prince, Xiatiana. He wanted to kill the North Vanquishing Prince in one move. Chi, under the shocked gazes of the crowd, a golden talisman appeared in front of the North Vanquishing Prince at the same time as the saber light swept out. The golden light spread out and destroyed the saber light that was powerful enough to tear the void apart. Under countless astonished gazes, the old Emperor Cheng Fancher's battle saber was then wrapped up by the golden talisman. It was as if there was something terrifying inside, and it directly devoured the battle saber. Within the golden talisman, there was a clear crunching sound of something being eaten. Then, the peak high-grade Taoist weapon battle saber began to crack. Pieces of the saber were missing. Only the crunching sound, which was like the explosion of firecrackers, could be heard. "Oh no, my treasured saber." The old Emperor Cheng Fancher's expression changed. He immediately retreated. However, it seemed that he could not get rid of the golden talisman at all. In less than a breath, Cheng Fanchi's Taoist combat saber, which was at the peak of high grade, disappeared. It seemed to have been bitten by something, all the way to the hilt. In the end, even the hilt was not spared. Bang! At the same time, Cheng Fancher's chest was also hit by a punch. Golden light burst out, and he immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. His expression changed, and he was directly sent flying. "Tastes good." A voice came from the golden light. Then, the golden light disappeared, and a golden little macaque appeared in front of everyone. Everyone knew that it was the little macaque that often sat on Du Xiaofu's shoulder. "Cheng Fancher, it's time to pay the price." Du Xiaofu's figure rushed out. He wanted to capture Cheng Fancher. This was the main culprit of the blood feud in Stone City. He could not let Cheng Fancher go. Boom! At this moment, heaven and earth trembled. In the center of the Imperial Palace in the Golden Dragon Palace, a great pressure erupted like a volcano. Golden light filled the sky, and finally, it turned into a giant golden dragon shadow. Its entire body was golden, and it was hundreds of feet long. The giant dragon shadow was majestic and ferocious. Golden light filled the sky. Accompanied by a force of heaven and earth, the entire Imperial Dragon City trembled. Billions of creatures trembled. The power of the Imperial Palace's Dragon Chi. And Jin Qingchun, Gu Qingyang, and the other experts were moved. That was the Imperial Palace's Dragon Chi. It was the convergence of the country's destiny and the condensed faith of countless people. That was the power of heaven and earth, and it was difficult for mortals to resist. The golden dragon shadow rushed over, carrying the vast Imperial Palace's Dragon Chi. It was vast and terrifying. Du Xiaofu raised his head. The dense Imperial Palace's Dragon Chi made Du Xiaofu tremble. Du Xiaofu immediately raised his hand. Golden light spread in his palm, and the rock's chaos-shattering claw immediately grabbed at the giant dragon shadow. Golden light erupted from the claw print, and the void rumbled. It was incomparably domineering, and it shocked everyone. The two instantly collided. Dazzling runes burst out, and a terrifying aura spread out. "Retreat! Retreat quickly!" The crowd below was shocked and retreated. The spreading energy was not something they could resist. Many people even had to activate their spiritual weapons to protect themselves. Chapter 975. Rumble. There was an explosion in the sky, and a dazzling light spread out. The talisman runes rose into the sky, and a dragon roared. The terrifying dragon aura from the palace made everyone tremble in fear. Ding ding. The gigantic dragon phantom shattered, but Du Xiaofu's body was also shaken and staggered backwards. It was a force of nature that Du Xiaofu couldn't stop. It had nothing to do with the opponent's strength. As the golden light spread out, the palace emitted a golden glow. A powerful force spread out from the sky. A chubby middle-aged man in a dragon robe leaped into the air. The middle-aged man in the dragon robe had white hair and was surrounded by a golden glow. There was a faint golden dragon shadow circling around him. He was the Emperor Cheng of the Stone Dragon Empire. Seeing Emperor Cheng appear, the North Vanquishing Prince, the East Vanquishing Prince, and the South Vanquishing Prince looked helpless. They also looked serious because Emperor Cheng controlled the dragon aura in the palace. Emperor Cheng floated in the air, and his aura connected the sky and the earth. It was as if every move he made contained the force of nature that could suppress everything. However, he couldn't hide his haggard expression. Du Xiaofu, the Stone Dragon Empire, is willing to give up 100 prefectures as compensation for the desolate country. How about we settle this? Emperor Cheng spoke in a dignified voice. However, for the sake of the Stone Dragon Empire and the Cheng clan, he had made a concession. Emperor Cheng knew that he had to make a compromise. 100 prefectures was equivalent to giving away half of the Stone Dragon Empire. Hearing Emperor Cheng's words, Dragon City trembled. Emperor Cheng was cutting off his arm to protect himself. I only want Cheng Fancher's life and the Cheng family to cripple their own cultivation. This is my final compromise. 100 Stone Dragon Empires can't make up for the debt of blood in my heart. Du Xiaofu spoke, looking straight at Emperor Cheng. He was also the monarch of a country and had his own imperial might, overbearing and disdainful. Emperor Cheng's eyes trembled when he heard this. His aura connected with the world, after which he scanned his surroundings. His eyes swept over the North Vanquishing King, the South Vanquishing King, and the rest before finally landing on Du Xiaofu. A special golden glow flickered within his eyes as he opened and closed them. He said, "It is unexpected that the once youngest king of the Stone Dragon Empire would end up in such a state with the Stone Dragon Empire. The Qing family shouldn't have left a blood debt in Shicheng. They shouldn't have bullied me." Du Xiaofu spoke, his voice shaking the void. "You and I are already at odds. Let's see if you can break my imperial palace's dragon qi." Emperor Qing knew that there was no need for more words. In the end, everything could only be decided by strength. If Du Xiaofu couldn't break his imperial palace's dragon qi, there might still be a chance to turn the situation around. Emperor Qing's eyes flickered with a majestic golden light. His body began to emit a golden light, channeling a terrifying energy from the imperial palace. It was as if a volcano had erupted. Boom! Along with the trembling of space, a seal that glowed with golden light and had a tiny golden dragon coiled on it appeared before Emperor Cheng. Roar! In an instant, the golden light above the seal was like a rising sun. A dragon's roar resounded, emitting a mysterious and ancient aura. That's the Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal. It contains the great fortune of a country and the power of faith of a country. It's nourished by the Imperial Palace's dragon qi. It's a precious treasure. Du Xiaoyao's voice entered Du Xiaofu's ears. He couldn't do anything against the Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal. It's the Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal. It's an item that condenses the great fortune of a country. It's been worshipped by millions of citizens of the Stone Dragon Empire for generations. It gathers the Imperial Palace's dragon qi. The North Vanquishing Prince's eyes trembled. It was a precious treasure of the Stone Dragon Empire. No mortal could defeat it. The Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal is nourished by the Imperial Palace's dragon qi. It contains a mysterious power and boundless fortune. It's in harmony with the heavens and earth. The South Vanquishing Prince said as he stared at the void. Suppress. The Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal emitted a radiant light that enveloped Emperor Cheng. It was as if it could resonate with the heavens and earth, forming a powerful and majestic energy. Then, Emperor Cheng threw the Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal in his hand, sweeping it towards Du Xiaofu. As the Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal was thrown out, 6 golden dragons supported it. The imperial palace's dragon chi surged. Roar! The dragon's roar shook the clouds. The golden light was boundless and distorted the void. It was as if it contained an ancient power. The momentum was earth-shattering, as if it wanted to suppress all living beings in the surroundings. All the creatures in the stone city were trembling. Countless people's faces were pale and their bodies were trembling. The imperial palace's dragon chi surged with endless auspicious light. It was extremely terrifying. Jin Qingchun and Gu Qingyang's expressions changed. They didn't know if they should intervene. The imperial palace's dragon chi carried the momentum of the heavens and earth. It had nothing to do with one's strength. While Jin Qingchun and Gu Qingyang were hesitating, everything happened too quickly. The golden dragons roared and covered the sky. They crushed the void and instantly suppressed Du Xiaofu. But at this moment, Du Xiaofu didn't retreat. Instead, he strode forward. Feeling the imperial palace's dragon chi, Du Xiaofu wasn't afraid at all. The mysterious runes on his body flickered and the thunder martial vein was activated. At this moment, the thunder martial vein in Du Xiaofu's body seemed to have sensed something and was eager to spread out. Then, relying on his intuition, Du Xiaofu activated the thunder martial vein. The thunder martial vein spread out. The mysterious runes on the thunder martial vein surged and covered his body. A magnificent and desolate aura spread out from Du Xiaofu's body. This magnificent and desolate aura made people feel as if they were facing an irresistible king. A domineering and murderous aura rippled in the sky. Rumble. The entire dragon city was covered with thunderclouds. The rumbling of thunder didn't stop. Purple lightning raged in the thunderclouds. An aura that made people's souls palpitate made all living beings fearful, almost at the same time. In a certain alley in Dragon City, a few young men and women who were dressed to cover their faces suddenly screamed in pain. The blood in their bodies was boiling. Something in their internal organs, bones, muscles, and marrow was awakening and about to burst out. The screams of these young men and women attracted the attention of many people around them. However, they thought that it was because they were too weak because of the terrifying aura. The thunder resounded and the entire dragon city was roaring. The terrifying and murderous aura fluctuated. The purple lightning turned into countless spiritual snakes that shuttled back and forth in the void. It made people's hair stand on end and feel a chill in their hearts. At this moment, the golden dragon imperial jade seal collapsed and stopped abruptly. It couldn't get close at all. The 6 golden dragon shadows were boiling. They were formed by the imperial palace's dragon chi. The dragons roared endlessly and shook the sky. However, they seemed to be afraid of the thunder martial vein in Du Xiaofu's body and didn't dare to move forward. Du Xiaofu felt the imperial palace's dragon chi. At this moment, it seemed to be afraid of his thunder martial vein. He strode forward in an overbearing manner and looked around disdainfully with a cold expression. Ao. The 6 golden dragons on the golden dragon imperial jade seal roared and looked at Du Xiaofu with fear in their eyes. In the end, the 6 golden dragon shadows started to crawl before Du Xiaofu in front of countless trembling and fearful gazes. The 6 dragons prostrated themselves before Du Xiaofu stopped. He stood in the air, unmoving. His aura was majestic and desolate, tyrannical and murderous. In the end, it transformed into a terrifying aura. Lightning flickered in his eyes as he swept his gaze over the 6 golden dragons. Ao. The 6 golden dragons crawled before Du Xiaofu and roared, shocking countless people. At this moment, a terrifying aura gathered around Du Xiaofu's body. It also contained the Imperial Palace's aura. The Imperial Palace's dragon chi far surpassed the Imperial Palace's dragon chi. It came from the depths of heaven and earth, as if it was the supreme being of heaven and earth. How could this be? The entire dragon city trembled. The golden dragons formed by the Imperial Palace's dragon chi and the might of the golden dragon imperial jade seal were crawling before Du Xiaofu at this moment. The Imperial Palace's dragon chi is the fate of a country. It gathers the power of heaven and earth, and no mortal can defeat it. However, rumor has it that the Imperial Palace's dragon chi is the most hierarchical. It comes from heaven and earth, and is also controlled by heaven and earth. It will bow before gods, sages, and supreme beings. Jin Qingchuan's eyes trembled as he recalled some rumors. He was shocked. Could it be that this guy was the reincarnation of a god, a sage, or a supreme being? Cheng Fanshi, Cheng Shengnan, Cheng Yin, Cheng Chao, and North Vanquishing Prince were all shocked. This scene was unbelievable. Emperor Cheng was even more shocked. He used all his strength to activate the Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal, but he found that it was difficult to activate the Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal. The Imperial Palace's Dragon Qi was also suppressed by the terrifying aura on Du Xiaofu's body. Du Xiaofu stood in the air, and his eyes were cold. Lightning flickered in his eyes as he looked down at Emperor Cheng. He was akin to a sovereign descending from the heavens as he spoke in a cold voice. Someone has to pay the debt of blood in Stone City. His voice was like thunder, shaking the Imperial Palace's Dragon Qi. That momentum was like the order of execution. Whoosh! As Du Xiaofu's voice fell, he waved his hand and a large purple thunderbolt swept out. It was as if thousands of thunderbolts were roaring at the same time, shaking the 9 heavens. That terrifying power made everyone's face change color and tremble. Thousands of thunderbolts roared, and the 6 golden dragons dissipated and turned into the Imperial Palace's Dragon Qi. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's body was surrounded by thunderbolts. He looked like a demon god who had descended with a terrifying heavenly power. Bang! The thunderbolt turned into a fist, shaking the void and directly hitting the Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal. Such a collision was like the collision of meteorites. Golden and purple electric arcs surged and spread out with a terrifying aura. Puffed! The Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal didn't break, but Emperor Cheng suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. His Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal had no effect on the young lady in front of him and was even suppressed. Bang! Another fist. This was a hand-to-hand fight. Du Xiaofu's thunderbolt fist landed on Emperor Cheng's chest like a bolt of lightning. Bang bang! Another mouthful of red blood was spat out uncontrollably from his mouth. He was definitely severely injured. Emperor Cheng was blasted down from midair and smashed into the Imperial Palace below, smashing into a golden hall and causing the ground to tremble incessantly with a rumbling sound. How terrifying! Poison Killer, Silver Fox, Cheng Ling, In Machin, Silver Fox, Phantom, Beast Killer, Bloodvine, and the others looked at the young man wrapped in thunderbolts and were trembling in fear. So terrifying. He is indeed that guy's son. He is even more ferocious than that guy. Ouyang Ling, Yuan Shanshan, Mu Mingqing, and the others looked at each other and secretly gasped in shock. The Imperial Palace's Dragon Qi is ultimately not my own strength. The Cheng family is vulnerable. As soon as Du Xiaofu finished speaking, his murderous gaze locked onto Cheng Fanshi, who hadn't recovered from his shock. Step by step, he flew across the sky. Cheng Fanshi was scared and couldn't help but tremble in fear. Looking at the purple-robed young man wrapped in thunderbolts, he looked like a demon god. Cheng Fanshi began to step back. His soul was trembling and fear crept into his heart. Puffed! The space fluctuated and a beautiful figure appeared. Her tall figure and long skirt couldn't hide her graceful curves. I can give you the Stone Dragon Empire. I can give you anything you want. The Cheng family will leave the Stone Dragon Empire and never return. Let go of my grandfather and the Cheng family. Will you? Cheng Shengnan looked at Du Xiaofu, who was approaching step by step. Her haggard and pale face had a pleading look in her eyes. I have already stated my conditions. I have already given the Cheng family a chance. Du Xiaofu shouted. He didn't hide the murderous intent in his eyes. How could he spare Cheng Fanshi? If the other members of the Cheng family were left alive, they would be a disaster in the future. What will it take for you to stop? Cheng Shengnan pleaded. She knew that she couldn't stop Du Xiaofu with her strength. However, she couldn't watch her grandfather and father be killed by the young man in front of her. She couldn't watch the entire Cheng family be destroyed. If I let you go, how can I explain to the tens of thousands of people who died in Stone City? Du Xiaofu shouted. His voice shook the void and his murderous intent surged. He had no intention of letting them go. I apologize to you on behalf of my grandfather, father, and the Cheng family. Is that okay? Chang Shengnan's hand shook and the stone dragon tempest sword appeared in her hand. She looked at Du Xiaofu and said, "What? You want to stop me? You can't stop me." Du Xiaofu looked at the stone dragon tempest sword in Chang Shengnan's hand and shouted. Chapter 977. In the crowd, Chang Chao stepped forward and picked up the Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal after seeing the Huang country and North vanquishing Prince leave. Biffed. As soon as he touched the Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal, Chang Chao's chubby body was sent flying. He spat out a mouthful of blood. The Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal gathered a surge of fate and was connected to the dragon vein. It was not something that an ordinary person could touch, let alone touch. Although Chang Chao was a prince, it did not mean that he was a prince. If he was not a human emperor, he would not be able to control the Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal. As Chang Chao's body was sent flying, the Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal fell from his hand. A red figure appeared like a ghost. A dazzling light spread out from his hand, and he managed to control the Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal. Roar! Golden light exploded from the Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal. A faint dragon roar could be heard as if it was trying to break free from the seal. The red figure was wearing a red robe and had golden hair. He looked extraordinary. The dazzling light in his hand suppressed the Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal with a terrifying aura. Whoosh whoosh! The space fluctuated. Then, a few figures with powerful auras that could freeze space appeared around the red-robed man. Brother-in-law. Looking at the red-robed man who suddenly appeared, Chang Chao got up. After a moment of shock, he was pleasantly surprised. It was his brother-in-law, the saint of the great Luan sect, Dongli Chihuang. Chang Chao immediately rushed forward as if he had seen his savior. He almost cried, "Brother-in-law, Du Xiaofu killed my grandfather and made my father destroy his own cultivation. Big sister was also killed by Du Xiaofu. You have to take revenge for us." Shangnan, Dongli Crimson Phoenix's gaze swept across the surroundings. Then, her gaze landed on the delicate body lying in front of her. Her body was covered in blood, and her expression changed instantly. It's a good thing to get rid of your inner demons. Suddenly, a dazzling ray of light seeped out from the void ear beside Chang Shengnan. A figure could be vaguely seen within the dazzling light. As the light spread, it disappeared in an instant. Chang Shengnan's body also disappeared. Dongli Chihuang's figure was as fast as lightning. By the time he chased after them, the dazzling light and Chang Shengnan's figure had already disappeared into the void. It's an expert from the Divine Light Court. With his cultivation, he should be one of the two in the Divine Light Court. Behind Dongli Chihuang, several experts arrived, and one of them was an elder. Phew! Cheng Yan's eyelashes trembled slightly, and then she opened her eyes. She didn't know what had happened, but she had lost consciousness just now. Outside the ferocious tiger gorge, there were many continuous tents. There was an invisible aura in one of the tents that prevented those who weren't strong enough from approaching. Xiaofu, the bloodline of the Du family is the same as the bloodline of the Du family. The position of the new emperor is yours. North vanquishing Prince Xie Tianhong persuaded Du Xiaofu in the tent, hoping that Du Xiaofu would take the position of the new emperor. Grandfather Xie, I'm the emperor of the desolate country. I'm not interested in the Stone Dragon Empire. There's no need to say anything, Du Xiaofu declined politely with a smile. He didn't want to be the new emperor of the Stone Dragon Empire. Then, his eyebrows twitched and his eyes flickered. Within the Dragon City, Du Xiaofu sensed a familiar aura. It should be the people of the Du household that had disappeared without a trace. Sigh, you child. North vanquishing Prince sighed and didn't say anything more. The sun shone brightly, enveloping Dragon City. Inside Dragon City, however, it was completely silent today. There was clearly a sea of people, but there was a feeling of emptiness in the city. In the Golden Dragon Palace, the Imperial Palace's imperial qi was still dense. The imperial qi of the Stone Dragon Empire was no small matter. Dongli Chihuang walked into the Golden Dragon Palace. The imperial qi of the Imperial Palace rippled and gathered. The imperial qi of the Imperial Palace has gathered the imperial qi of the Stone Dragon Empire for 8,000 years. Dongli Chihuang murmured. His eyes were shining. The golden dragon imperial jade seal appeared in his hand. A dazzling light appeared, and the imperial chi rippled. A dragon roar resounded in the golden dragon palace. If I could get such imperial chi of the imperial palace in my previous life, I wouldn't have been unable to take that step. As soon as he finished speaking, a dazzling light rose in front of Dongli Chi Huang. The golden dragon imperial jade seal rippled and gathered the imperial chi of the imperial palace. It opened its mouth to absorb it. I was wrong. I was wrong. This is your real purpose. Emperor Cheng's voice came. His hair was white, and his body was weak. He walked into the Golden Dragon Palace. Looking at Dongli Chi Huang in the Golden Dragon Palace, Emperor Cheng's eyes trembled. He finally understood why he was wrong. But now, it was too late. Du Xiaofu killed the old emperor, and you crippled yourself. But you still passed the throne to him. No wonder the Stone Dragon Empire's imperial chi is exhausted. Dongli Chi Huang turned around and looked at Emperor Cheng with a smile. There was no longer any respect, only indifference. It was as if he was looking down at Emperor Cheng. Persuading the Stone Dragon Empire to go to Stone City and help the Stone Dragon Empire attack the Huang country. Although the ancient heaven sect suppressed you, you didn't use your full strength. Now that I think about it, it was all your plan. You just wanted the Huang country to destroy the Stone Dragon Empire. In the end, you reaped the benefits without leaving any traces. You got the imperial chi of the imperial palace. Emperor Cheng's voice was trembling. His eyes were bloodshot. He understood everything, but it was too late to regret. Yes, it was my plan. But the appearance of Du Xiaofu and the Holy Matrix prodigy was beyond my expectation. Dongli Chi Huang's eyes were cold. His original plan was to wait until he came out of the sealed ancient land and the Stone Dragon Empire was destroyed. Then, as the fiancé of the first princess, he could rightfully become the new emperor and obtain the imperial chi of the imperial palace. But everything was beyond his expectation. The competition between the geniuses of the sealed ancient land was unforgettable. Even though he had lived 2 lives, he couldn't bear such humiliation. But it's not important anymore. The result is the same anyway. It's ridiculous that Du Xiaofu didn't know the importance of the imperial chi of the imperial palace. It won't be long before they all die. Dongli Chi Huang sneered. He had the imperial chi of the imperial palace and the divine thunder body. As long as he awakened, he could get everything back. I regret it so much. Emperor Chang trembled as he looked at the golden dragon imperial jade seal floating in front of Dongli Chi Huang. He stepped forward and tried to take the golden dragon imperial jade seal. Bang! Dongli Chi Huang's palm landed on Emperor Cheng's head. The energy surged and Emperor Cheng's body fell down. His eyes were wide open and blood seeped out of them. Father! Cheng Chao appeared at the gate of the Golden Dragon Palace. He watched his father fall down and sat on the ground in shock. Chi! Dongli Chi Huang appeared in front of Cheng Chao. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Brother-in-law, don't kill me. I didn't see anything. Father died because of Du Xiaofu. My elder sister is saved. I will tell her that father was killed by Du Xiaofu. Cheng Chao's face was pale as he said loudly, "Why would I kill you? Your father destroyed his cultivation. I wanted to check on his injuries. I didn't expect him to be so weak because of grief." Sigh. The Eastern mythical Scarlet Phoenix gently sighed as the killing intent in her eyes disappeared. Her hand stopped in front of Cheng Chao as she helped him up. "Don't worry, I will definitely avenge you. I will bring you back to the Great Luan sect and use the best resources of the Great Luan sect to help you become a top expert in the Central Continent. At that time, you will have your revenge." Become a top expert. Cheng Chao's pale face was filled with expectation. That's right. I will let the Great Luan sect train you to become a true expert. Dongli Chi Huang said. Thank you, brother-in-law. Cheng Chao bowed with desire in his eyes. Dongli Chi Huang smiled with satisfaction. After a while, he activated the Golden Dragon Imperial Jade Seal and channeled the Imperial Chi in the Golden Dragon Palace. A dazzling light spread out, and a terrifying aura surged out. Roar. The dragon roared as Dongli Chi Huang absorbed the Imperial Chi in the Golden Dragon Palace. A golden light burst out, and a golden aura surged into his body like a golden snake. Crack! At this moment, countless mountains in the Stone Dragon Empire trembled. The mountain range cracked and the abyss cracked. Towering ancient trees withered. Deep in the mountains, spiritual springs dried up. Roar. Deep in the mountains, beasts roared in fear. At dusk, the setting sun was like blood as it slowly set in the west. Third brother, father has not been buried. You can't go to the Great Luan sect, Cheng Yin said to Cheng Chao in the messy imperial palace. She frowned, and her expression was solemn. Second sister, it's fine if you don't want to go. But don't stop me. I will become an expert and not a fallen prince. Sooner or later, I will take back what I lost. Cheng Chao's eyes flashed coldly. He then turned around and left with Dongli Chihuang. Second princess, what should we do now? Emperor Cheng's corpse, a trusted old guard of the Cheng family, came forward and asked Cheng Yin. This is bad. I'm afraid we don't have enough time. Quickly arrange for everyone to leave Dragon City. The further, the better. Father's corpse can only be buried after leaving Dragon City. Cheng Yin interrupted the old guard. She looked in the direction where Cheng family left and murmured, Big sister sacrificed herself for the Cheng family. Third brother, you're bringing the Cheng family to eternal damnation again. At night, the blood aura still lingered in the Tiger Gorge. Inside the tent, only the core members of the World Society, Medicine Sovereign, Eagle King, Hua Fankong, Chao Yu, Li Shui, Murong Yurua, and the ancient Heaven Sect's Crimson Flame Hall's Hall Master Gu Zong, Du Yunlong, and Du Xiaoman were present. President, we just received news that Chang Shengnan was taken away by the experts of the Divine Light Court. Cheng family's Cheng family and Cheng Chao went to the Great Luan sect with Dongli Chihuang. The Cheng family and their trusted subordinates are quietly leaving Dragon City, Li Shui said. Kill. Don't let a single one go. Du Xiaofu sat upright with killing intent in his eyes. Chapter 978. The Moon Shadow Clan has been secretly following us. I'll make the arrangements immediately. Li Shui bid farewell and left. After all these years of training, she had become more and more resolute. The Cheng family still wants to get involved with the Great Luan sect. The Cheng family still hasn't given up. Medicine King Yi Wuming frowned. Cheng Shengnan and Cheng Yin are protecting the Cheng family. I feel that this might not be the doing of the Cheng family. There might be something else going on. Murong Yurua hesitated for a moment before looking up at Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu looked at everyone in the hall and said, I don't want the painful lesson of Shi Cheng to happen again. We have already given the Cheng family a chance. If the Cheng family continues to be peaceful, we will keep our promise. However, the Cheng family is still with the Great Luan sect. We can't do anything about it, Du Yunlong said. The others didn't say anything else. They all understood that they didn't plan to let the Cheng family off today. In the end, Cheng Shengnan and Cheng Yin begged for their lives, and Emperor Cheng crippled himself to give the Cheng family a chance. But now, someone from the Cheng family had once again led the Cheng family into a dead end. I'm afraid the Moon Shadow Clan will find it difficult to deal with the rest of the Cheng family. Yellow Earth Hall and Blackwater Hall, go and help, Du Xiaofu said to Yellow Earth Hall Master Hua Fankong and Blackwater Hall Master Chao Yu. Yes. Hua Fankong and Chao Yu nodded and left the tent to make the arrangements. We have conquered many cities in the Stone Dragon Empire. What should we do? Eagle King asked Du Xiaofu. During this period of time, the cities that the Huang country had conquered were already 1/3 of the Stone Dragon Empire's land. Let's return to the Huang country, Du Xiaofu said. Return to the Huang country. Many of the World Society's core disciples were stunned when they heard that. They were reluctant to part with him. This country is not very big. The world outside is much vaster than this country. There is no need to care about this country. Du Xiaofu looked at the main hall, and his eyes flickered. He then turned to Eagle King Gong Dao and said, Grand Elder, all the hall masters of the World Society will be stationed in the desolate nation. Have the army withdraw. Arrange for all the core members that are absolutely trustworthy to gather in 4 hours. Also, inform the commanders of the Heavenly Beast Hall and above. Also, inform the generals of the Tianwu Academy, Li Yuxiao, and the others that there will be a valley 100 li away in 4 hours. All right, I'll arrange it now. Medicine King Gong Dao nodded. Although he did not know what Du Xiaofu wanted to do, he left the tent to make arrangements. Oldie, I need to return to the Seven-Star Hall as soon as possible. I'll leave the barren country and the world society to you, Du Xiaofu said to Medicine King Yi Wuming.
When?
Yi Wuming asked. 4 hours later. Du Xiaofu smiled. Are you going to be a hands-off boss again? Yi Wuming glared at Du Xiaofu and said, Be careful on the road. Soon after, Du Xiaofu bade farewell to his master, Gu Qingyang, and his elder brother, Zhen Qingchun. Naturally, he had to be reminded. Looking at his master's rosy face and 2 front teeth, Du Xiaofu felt a warmth in his heart. He kept nodding his head as his master reminded him, Be careful. I heard that the Divine Light Court and the Seven-Star Hall are at odds with each other. Sima Muhan pouted. She looked a little unruly, but it added a little cuteness to her. Don't worry, your martial uncle will be careful. Du Xiaofu smiled. You get lost. Sima Muhan stomped her feet and scolded him. She walked out of the tent angrily. Shui Ruhan looked at her, her blue eyes rippling. She smiled but did not say anything. Soon after, she followed Sima Muhan out of the tent. How did I provoke that girl? Du Xiaofu was stunned. He did not know why that girl suddenly changed her attitude. She changed her attitude faster than flipping a book. Chunling, didn't you say you wanted to spar with him? Inmachin looked at Du Xiaofu, then motioned to Qinling beside him. The corners of his mouth curved into a faint smile. Get lost. Qinling rolled his eyes at Inmachin. How would he dare to spar with that guy? He would definitely be looking for trouble. Soon after, in a canyon 100 miles away from the Tiger Gorge, the moonlight shrouded the sky. Under the night sky, the moonlight was like a waterfall. The martial veins in our bodies have become extraordinary. Because of the martial veins, the disciples of the Du family can cultivate with twice the results with half the effort. Their power is extraordinary. Conservatively speaking, there are now more than 100 disciples of the Du family who have reached the human sovereign realm. They are even getting stronger. Do you know why? At the gate of the canyon, several figures landed. Du Yunlong looked at Du Xiaofu and asked. The current Du family was no longer the same as before. It was just that they had been trying their best to hide it from the outside world. What is the reason? Du Xiaofu immediately asked. The thunder martial vein in his body had always been a mystery. Why did he have the martial vein spiritual mark in his body? And why did he seal the spiritual root? All these puzzled Du Xiaofu, and he could not understand. Du Yunlong replied to Du Xiaofu, Uncle and the elders of the Du family went through some of the genealogical records left behind by the Du family and finally found some reasons. Du Yunlong paused and pursed his lips. Lightning flashed in his eyes in the dark night. He said, the Du family might have been a big family in this world in the past. According to some of the ancient records passed down in the family, the Du family was one of the strongest families in the world. We had the thunder martial vein and were extremely powerful, but later on, for some reason, we declined. The Du family used to be a big family in this world. Du Xiaofu's heart trembled when he heard this. If the information was correct, it could explain why he had the martial vein spiritual mark in his body in the past. The thunder martial vein was very powerful. Naturally, it was not something an ordinary family could have. Du Xiaoyao said with interest. He could feel how terrifying the thunder martial vein was. Du Xiaoqing, Ouyang Shuang, and Little Tiger didn't say anything. Phantom, Jiangshan, Shou Sha, Bloodvine, and Hun Xia also stood quietly. Under the moonlight, they seemed to feel more comfortable. However, there are not many records left behind. My father and the elders of the Du family didn't find any additional information, Du Xiaoman said. Her eyes flickered with lightning. She also believed that the Du family used to be a big family in this world. If there is a chance in the future, I will definitely investigate it, Du Xiaofu said softly. So. As soon as Du Xiaofu finished speaking, the space nearby fluctuated. Many auras spread over, and several figures landed. There were more than 100 of them. They were Eagle King, Gong Dao, First Elder, Mysterious Flood Dragon King, Absolute Sword King, Mysterious Flood Dragon King, Stone Turtle King, Yi Piaoling, Qin Guyu, Silver Fox, Duo Sha, Stone, General, Gu Xinyan, Ghost Child, Wu Kei, Li Yuxiao, Silverwing Demonic Condor, Ba Ao, and other core members of the World Society, Sky Pivot Hall, and Tianwu Academy. They were all trustworthy people. President, Hall Master. Everyone bowed. They were confused. They didn't know why he had called them here in the middle of the night. You're here. Du Xiaofu smiled. He waved his hand and a light flashed between his eyebrows. An ancient aura spread out. A familiar aura. General, Gu Xinyan, Li Yuxiao, and the others' eyes widened. They immediately felt that familiar aura. Little Blue, Little Tiger, Yu, Jiangxin, and Phantom will head to the 7-star hall later. The rest, follow me. Du Xiaofu smiled. With a thought, the entrance to the ancient, desolate space opened. An ancient aura rippled out, and he took the lead. What is that thing? It can actually hide space. Everyone was shocked. However, they followed behind and entered the ancient, desolate space. Chapter 979. As everyone walked into the ancient, desolate space, Du Xiaoqing waved her hand and stored the ancient, desolate space in her palm. Roar! The little tiger transformed into its original form. Black runes surged and golden ripples swept out. Then, it carried Du Xiaoqing, Jiangxin, Phantom, Bloodvine, Beastkiller, Hun Xie, and the others and disappeared into the night. Is this the Heaven Martial Talisman realm? In the blurry ancient desolate space, Ouyang Shuang, Du Xiaoman, General, Gu Xinyan, Sun Ji, Wu Qingfeng, Zhang Wei, Li Yuxiao, and Wu Kei immediately felt a sense of familiarity. The aura in this space was exactly the same as the Heaven Martial Talisman realm. It was almost exactly the same. This is indeed the Heaven Martial Talisman realm. Du Xiaofu nodded to Ouyang Shuang, Du Xiaoman, General, and the others. Then, he said to everyone in front of him, this is the Heaven Martial Talisman realm in Tianwu Academy. There are all kinds of beast energy, talisman arrays, and secret techniques inside. 20 hours inside is only 2 hours outside. With 10 times the time difference, everyone can comprehend without worry. So this is the Heaven Martial Talisman realm, the Solitary Sword King, Mysterious Flood Dragon King, Eagle King, and the others were all shocked. They had heard of the Heaven Martial Talisman realm in Tianwu Academy, but they didn't expect it to be in Du Xiaofu's possession after Tianwu Academy ceased to exist. It said that there are many beast energy and secret techniques inside. That's not a small opportunity. 10 times the time difference is amazing. The Golden Condor King was very excited. He knew that he could obtain many benefits inside. You'll be able to gain a lot of benefits from this place. The reason why I allowed everyone to enter this place is not only because everyone here is a member of the World Society, but also because I treat everyone here as my own people, or even my relatives. Otherwise, I wouldn't have let everyone in. Du Xiaofu looked at everyone with a serious expression. He had an extremely majestic aura. Although he was young, he was already the ruler of a region. At this moment, he was even the founding emperor of a country. His majesty came from his soul, and everyone couldn't help but respect him. On his shoulder, Du Xiaoyao stood on Du Xiaofu's shoulder, her golden eyes looking at everyone as if nothing had happened. We will follow the guild master wholeheartedly. Follow third young master, even if we have to die 1,000 times. Eagle King, Gong Dao, Solitary Sword King, Black Dragon King, Qinggu Yu, Duo Sha, Silver Fox, and the rest of the World Society's core disciples saluted respectfully. Over the years, everyone knew what they had gained. Even though the young man before him was young, he was a supreme genius of the Middle Continent. Not to mention the ancient Heaven sect and the 7-star hall behind this young man. Most importantly, everyone was clearly aware that with this young man's natural talent and potential, it wouldn't be long before he would definitely become an overlord in the Central Continent. At that time, they would definitely become famous in the Central Plains. With the personality of the purple-robed young man, he would definitely not mistreat any of them. He had never mistreated any of them. Remember, everything that happens in this space today must not be leaked. Du Xiaofu looked at everyone and said, he had to take this seriously. The soul of the ancient desolate space had specially reminded him not to expose the ancient desolate space. Back then, when the ancient desolate space was disguised as the Heavenly Martial Talisman realm, There were many people who wanted to pry into it. However, they were all deceived by the soul of the ancient, desolate space. If others knew that the ancient, desolate space was in his possession, all the hidden experts on the continent would definitely attack him without mercy. There would be no place for him to escape. However, Du Xiaofu trusted the fact that he allowed everyone to come in. He didn't doubt the people he used, and he didn't use those he didn't trust. After pausing for a moment, Du Xiaofu glanced at everyone and said slowly, I didn't ask everyone to come here today just to let you enter the heavenly martial talisman realm to comprehend. Everyone should know about divine thunder body tempering, right? Divine thunder body tempering? Hearing this, everyone's eyes immediately turned to look at Du Xiaofu. Especially the general, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman, Ouyang Shuang, and the others who had entered the sealed ancient lands. They knew the benefits of divine thunder body tempering. The divine thunder cauldron in the sealed ancient lands has already recognized me as its master. As soon as Du Xiaofu finished speaking, he waved his hand and a purple gold stream of light spread out from his palm. A palm-sized three-legged cauldron immediately circled in his palm. The three-legged cauldron was covered with purple electric arcs and rippled with an ancient aura that made everyone's soul tremble. It was the purple thunder cauldron. As the purple thunder cauldron appeared, its terrifying aura spread out and made everyone's soul tremble. The profound qi and blood in their bodies froze. Divine thunder cauldron, that's the divine thunder cauldron. Du Yunlong, the general, Yi Piaoling, Qin Guyu, Silver Fox, and the others narrowed their eyes and shuddered. They immediately recognized the divine thunder cauldron. The divine thunder cauldron that had occupied the sealed ancient lands was now circling in Du Xiaofu's palm. The divine thunder cauldron in the sealed ancient lands has been recognized by the third young master, Eagle King, Gong Dao, Solitary Sword King, Mysterious Dragon King, and the others trembled violently. Damn! Du Xiaoyao could not help but tremble. Her golden eyes suddenly looked up. She definitely did not expect that the terrifying divine thunder cauldron in the sealed ancient lands had been recognized by Du Xiaofu as its master. The divine thunder cauldron has been taken by Brother Xiaofu? The young fort master of the Mu fort, Mu Zhenghao's eyes almost popped out. The divine thunder cauldron in the sealed ancient lands had been taken away. In the future, there would be no more divine thunder cauldron in the sealed ancient lands. Today, I let everyone in so that everyone can benefit from the divine thunder body tempering. I hope everyone can benefit from it. As Du Xiaofu's voice fell, the purple thunder cauldron in his hand was thrown out. It suddenly appeared above the misty space. Boom! Purple thunder clouds appeared and purple electric arcs overflowed around the purple thunder cauldron. The divine thunder body tempering. Can we all get the divine thunder body tempering? Duo Sha secretly swallowed a mouthful of saliva in his throat and lifted his head to ask Du Xiaofu. Of course, everyone can get the divine thunder body tempering. Du Xiaofu nodded. The purple thunder cauldron had been recognized as its master. The purple gold profound bomb could enhance everyone's martial veins and spiritual roots. At that moment, under his control, everyone could benefit from it. Gulp gulp, however, as Du Xiaofu's voice fell, the misty space suddenly froze and fell silent. Only the sounds of inhaling cold air and swallowing of saliva could be heard. Some people's hearts were beating faster. The divine thunder body tempering. In every prodigy competition, all the strongest young people in the middle ground would fight with their lives. In the end, only 10 people could get the divine thunder body tempering. Now, everyone present could get the divine thunder body tempering. How could they not be clear about what they had gained from this? Some people's frozen blood began to boil. Some people's eyes were trembling and turning red. They were crying tears of joy. Someone's heartbeat sped up, thumping harder and harder. Thank you, President. Thank you, Third Young Master. Eagle King, Gong Dao, Solitary Sword King, Golden Condor King, and Mysterious Dragon King's eyes turned red. At that moment, they knew very well what kind of benefits they would get. It was a great opportunity that countless experts in the middle ground could not get. Now, because of the purple-robed young man in front of them, they could get it easily. The divine thunder body tempering. General, Li Yuxiao, Wu Kei, Sunji, and Ghost Child trembled as their eyes shone brightly. A great opportunity. I never thought that I would get such a great opportunity one day. The Divine Thunder Body Tempering. Ha 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 ha. Then, the Divine Thunder Cauldron opened. Eagle King, Gong Dao, Golden Condor King, Solitary Sword King, and the rest were all excited as they jumped into the Divine Thunder Cauldron. In the purple gold profound lightning cauldron, Du Xiaofu controlled it with his mind. Thunder clouds rumbled as the purple gold profound lightning flew out. Everyone started to get the divine thunder body tempering to improve their martial veins and spiritual roots. I want to try to. In the purple gold profound lightning cauldron, Du Xiaoyao stood on Du Xiaofu's shoulder. He felt that the purple gold profound lightning was very beneficial to him. He immediately jumped out and transformed into a huge redbone horse monkey in midair. Rumble. The purple gold Xian lightning fell. This time, Du Xiaoyao's head did not emit black smoke from being struck. Instead, his golden, crystalline body absorbed the purple gold Xian lightning into his body as the lightning swept down. His entire body was wrapped in purple lightning arcs. In the purple gold profound lightning cauldron, hundreds of people were bathed in the purple gold profound lightning. It was a magnificent sight. Du Xiaofu looked at everyone with a smile. At this moment, more than 100 people were here. It wouldn't take long for them to rise completely, and they would only be the strongest force by his side in the future. Third brother, is this really the divine thunder cauldron? Only Du Yunlong, who was being held by Du Xiaofu, hadn't undergone the divine thunder body tempering. Although he knew that this was the divine thunder cauldron, he still couldn't believe it. The divine thunder cauldron in the sealed ancient land was taken away by his third brother. This was too unbelievable for Du Yunlong. Unbelievable. For countless years, the 9 great forces hadn't been able to shake it at all. Du Xiaofu smiled and said to his second brother, Du Yunlong, second brother, you can undergo the divine thunder body tempering later. I'll make your body stronger first. As his voice fell, Du Xiaofu's mind moved. Then, he and his second brother, Du Yunlong, came out of the purple gold profound lightning cauldron and entered the ancient desolate space. A pill slowly fell in front of his second brother, Du Yunlong. He said, this is a body protection pill. It can protect your internal organs and resist the high temperature. Second brother, I'm afraid you'll have to suffer a little. However, in the future, you'll be like a tiger that has grown wings. It'll be a great support for you in the future. Come on, hurry up. Second brother can handle it. Du Yunlong smiled and took the pill from Du Xiaofu without any hesitation. Then, he stuffed it into his mouth without any hesitation or contemplation. To Du Yunlong, how could he not trust his third brother in front of him? Then I'll start. Du Xiaofu nodded with a smile. He formed a seal with his hands, and the cauldron in front of him immediately condensed. Flames leapt out. At this moment, what Du Xiaofu wanted to do was to use the saint body arts to refine the impurities out of his second brother, Du Yunlong, and strengthen his body. A moment later, Du Yunlong, who had jumped into the cauldron, let out a blood-curdling scream. The instant his clothes touched the cauldron, they turned into ashes under the high temperature. The flames burned his body. Du Yunlong's hair stood on end. The flames entered his body. Not only his skin, but even the depths of his soul suddenly felt a burning pain. Then, he began to undergo the secret weapon arts refinement. Inside the divine thunder cauldron, over 100 people were undergoing the divine thunder body tempering. Within the ancient desolate space, Du Xiaofu used the secret weapon art to strengthen Du Yunlong's body. In the air outside, the little tiger flapped its wings. It carried Du Xiaoqing, the phantom, the beast killer, the blood fiend vine, and a few other terrifying figures. It rushed towards the 7-star hall at full speed. Within the sealed ancient land, in the vast square below the purple lightning profound cauldron, the indestructible square had already cracked long ago. It was covered in spiderweb-like cracks. Dazzling light spread and talisman inscriptions constantly flickered. It was a restriction seal that was constantly cracking, as if something terrifying was about to awaken. Chapter 980. The space was still dark, but the space above the sealed ancient land seemed to be tearing apart. The seal within the sealed ancient land was being torn apart, and stars began to appear in the sky. The stars hung high in the sky. They were cold and scattered as they flickered with light. Dark clouds suddenly gathered in the sky and shrouded the stars. The dark clouds became denser and denser, covering the sky. At this moment, the cracks on the square became bigger and bigger, and the talisman patterns became more and more dazzling. The dark clouds in the sky silently rolled and suddenly released a dazzling light. It was as if there was lightning and thunder in the depths of the sky. A terrifying aura began to be released and spread across the sky. Sigh! At that moment, as lightning flashed and thunder roared, a sigh came from the end of the central plains. The voice was old and long, and it echoed in this space. It was because of this sigh that the terrifying power in the seal under the square seemed to have completely awakened. Rumble. A low rumble came from the ground. It sounded like thunder, and it came from the depths of the square. It came from afar and came rolling towards them. The rumbling sounded as if there were 10,000 beasts galloping, and a peerless demon was about to emerge from the dark underground. Terrifying cracks began to appear in the sky. Dark clouds rolled, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled. The seal around the vast and boundless sealed ancient land began to dissipate. Inside the sealed ancient land, a figure raised his head and looked at the sky. It was a young man who was walking alone. At this moment, he was attracted by the terrifying commotion in front of him. The young man wore a wide robe and looked to be around 23 or 24 years old. He was tall and had an extraordinary aura. However, at this moment, there was an evil aura coming from the young man's body. He was Chen Yin from the Profound Talisman sect. He was afraid that his fellow sect members would find out that he was bitten by the evil spirit, so he hid. In the end, he miraculously survived and his strength increased greatly. However, just as Chen Yin was feeling happy for himself, he realized that there was no one left in the sealed ancient land. Even the evil spirits that were originally everywhere were gone. Only desolation remained. What is that? Looking at the terrifying commotion in front of him, Chen Yin hesitated for a moment. In the end, he gritted his teeth and walked forward. Rumble. In the silent holy thunder mountain range, the earth shook as if there was an earthquake. It was as if a huge crack had appeared in the sky. The light in the firmament grew brighter and brighter, illuminating the dark and gloomy world in the night. Inside the sealed ancient land, the square under the purple lightning profound cauldron had completely cracked. A terrifying light broke through the ground, and a dazzling light gushed out from the crack in the ground. Finally, a huge black shadow emerged from the dazzling light. The black shadow appeared and then appeared in the sky. Finally, it turned into a pair of giant eyes. It was just a pair of eyes. As the pair of giant eyes appeared, an evil aura surged forth. A murderous aura howled like a gale, and a black fog filled the air. It was as if all the evil aura in the world had gathered at this moment. This pair of eyes seemed to be the most evil thing in the world, able to make all the evil spirits in the 9 Netherland and the 18 levels of hell submit to them respectfully. That pair of terrifying eyes slowly opened. The pupils in the eyes were dark gold, as if they were lifeless. However, the moment the pair of eyes opened, all the mountains in the sealed ancient land cracked in an instant. Outside the sealed ancient land, all the mountains in the Holy Thunder Mountain range trembled and cracks spread out. The rivers on the ground surged, and the tides rose and fell. Dark clouds gathered in the sky, and lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. The surroundings were terrifying. That pair of eyes was like a peerless demon that had walked out from the ground, overlooking the world from the firmament. It looked around as if it was looking for something. Wherever that pair of eyes looked, the tides would rise and fall, as if doomsday had arrived. Evil aura also spread out from the ground. Swoosh, swoosh. At this moment, there were several auras that descended from the depths of the world in the central region. These auras were very obscure, but they were the most terrifying existences in the world. You can't trap me. You can't trap me. I'm immortal. Lu Xiaoyu, Long Xian, you can't do anything to me. The pair of eyes spoke, as if the world was speaking. It came from afar, and it made people tremble. Walala! In this part of the sky, the surrounding void began to shatter. Then, the pair of eyes began to disappear into the depths of the firmament, and the eyes began to close. At the moment when the pair of eyes closed, the pair of eyes seemed to have found a small figure below. It was a young man. The pair of dark gold eyes revealed a terrifying gaze, and a faint smile appeared. A ray of light descended from the sky, like a thunderbolt, but it was silent. It was just a gaze, and it was undetectable. Then, it fell on the figure below. Then, the pair of eyes closed, and the surrounding evil aura gathered. Black fog and evil chi covered the sky, and finally disappeared into the depths of the void. Then, the world fell into darkness again. Everything began to return to normal, and the cracks in the ground slowly closed. The cracks in the sky also closed, and only the pair of eyes disappeared into the sky. The evil spirit has awakened, and the great calamity is coming. In this part of the sky, a voice came from the obscure aura. A divine thunder cauldron has disappeared, and the evil spirit has been released. Who has it? An old voice came from the end of the world. The great calamity is coming again. In the unseen world, the wheel of calamity has never stopped spinning. The world is going to change again, and blood is going to flow like a river. A voice that sounded like a man and a woman came from the depths of the void. At dawn, the sun rose, and the earth was reborn. It was as if nothing had happened. However, outside the divine Thunder Mountain range, a vast and boundless space appeared overnight, and it appeared in this world. A young man in a loose robe walked out slowly into the divine Thunder Mountain range, and there was a cold smile in his eyes. Facing the morning sun, he murmured, "Heaven does not disappoint those who persevere. I have finally come out. From now on, my name, Chun Yin, will be known throughout the central region and the world." Swoosh, swoosh. After a while, the aura of many experts arrived in the divine Thunder Mountain range. Looking at the vast land that appeared out of nowhere outside the divine Thunder Mountain range, they were all shocked. The sealed ancient land has opened, and the seal has disappeared. Go and find the treasure. In the next few days, the whole central region was in an uproar. Some people recognized that the vast space outside the divine Thunder Mountain range was the sealed ancient land. Inside the sealed ancient land, there were inheritances passed down from ancient times, and there were countless spiritual weapons, talisman weapons, spiritual medicines, and so on. For a time, all the practitioners in the central region entered the sealed ancient land in a frenzy, looking for all kinds of opportunities. Bang, bang. In the space, because of the treasure hunt, there were all kinds of disputes and conflicts. From time to time, there would be fierce collisions. It was said that the people of the One Valley, 2 religions, 3 sects, 3 schools, and 9 great powers had all entered first, including many experts of the 9 great powers. Those experts of the 9 great powers seemed to be looking for the divine Thunder Cauldron. However, the space was so vast that even the top experts could not cross it in a day. It was unknown whether they found the divine Thunder Cauldron in the end. In the misty space of the ancient, desolate space, in the spiritual furnace and talisman cauldron in front of Du Xiaofu, General was burning in flames, and the high temperature burned his body. General could not help but scream. That terrible temperature seemed to evaporate his soul. His skin, which had been refined by the divine Thunder Cauldron, was burning and shriveling, and immediately made a sizzling sound. However, with the body-protecting elixir, a rich medicinal power spread through General's body, covering his internal organs, and resisting the high temperature that penetrated and caused fatal damage to his internal organs. Chi. Du Xiaofu's hand seals changed, and a white divine energy spread out from his body, causing the misty space to tremble. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was using the holy body art to help General forge his body. Although Du Xiaofu was using the holy body art to refine General's body, it was not as strong as the ancient jade, but it was enough to improve General's physical body by a lot, and it could be refined like a spiritual weapon or talisman weapon. At the same time, it could refine some beastly secret arts and even talisman arrays into the human body. At the end of the refinement, the body could be comparable to a Tao artifact, a Dharma artifact, or a Sane artifact. From the Stone Dragon Empire to the Seven-Star Hall of the Spirit Domain, Du Xiaofu had taken several months to travel from Stone City to the Spirit Domain. At this moment, although the little tiger was fast, it could not arrive in 1 or 2 days. Along with the rest on the way, they still had not reached their destination after flying for 5 days. 5 days was almost 2 months in the ancient desolate space. Inside the purple thunder cauldron in the ancient desolate space, almost 2 months had passed. Almost everyone had succeeded in refining their bodies with the divine thunder cauldron, and all of them had improved their martial veins and spiritual roots. Their strength had increased greatly, and they had obtained great opportunities. Many people had even taken the opportunity to step into the martial emperor realm. One by one, they came out of the purple thunder cauldron, wild with joy. Then, everyone entered the realm of enlightenment in the ancient, desolate space and continued to comprehend, challenge, and train. They entered into a frenzied cultivation mode. As for Duo Sha, Silver Fox, Stone, Anye Cha, Ghost Child, Absolute Sword King, Golden Condor King, and the others, their bodies had been refined by Du Xiaofu using the divine body art. For almost 2 months, Du Xiaofu had not been idle. He had been frantically using the divine body art to strengthen everyone's bodies. Therefore, Du Xiaofu became more and more adept at using the divine body art, and his speed became faster and faster. Every time his body was exhausted, Du Xiaofu would consume elixirs and elixirs to recover. The divine thunder cauldron could strengthen the martial veins and spiritual roots, and it could also strengthen the body. The divine body art strengthened the body again and again. In the ancient desolate space, one could comprehend secret skills, beast energy, and various superpowers. They could also continuously train in the realm of battle. Under such frenzied cultivation, Yi Piaoling, Qingguyu, Wanningong, Absolute Sword King, Du Yunlong, Eagle King, and the others who had entered the ancient desolate space this time knew clearly that they had obtained amazing benefits. It was a great opportunity that no one could ask for. Chapter 981. Although it had only been a short time, everyone's strength had increased at a terrifying rate. What was even more terrifying was that everyone had not only increased their strength, but also their martial veins and spirit roots. That was the scariest part. If the people from the One Valley, 2 churches, 3 sects, and 3 factions knew about this, they would be on pins and needles. They would be deeply fearful. At this rate, the 100 people in the ancient desolate space would become a terrifying force that could affect the existence of the 9 forces in no time. Moreover, Du Xiaofu could continuously create such terrifying experts. With the time in the ancient desolate space, they could grow even more terrifying. If the 9 forces knew about this, they would probably break out in cold sweat just thinking about it. However, no one knew that at this moment, a terrifying force was quietly growing in the ancient, desolate space. They were all very young and had terrifying potential. Their growth was limitless. Du Xiaofu was still using the sacred body art. However, he could not use it on Ouyang Shuang, Big Sister Du Xiaoman, and the others. The flames burned their entire bodies. Their clothes were burned, and their bodies were exposed. Du Xiaofu had to avoid it, but he could not do anything about it. Those who had their bodies tempered by Du Xiaofu's sacred body art were all in a miserable state. That kind of pain was indescribable. Ordinary people would not be able to endure it. However, everyone gritted their teeth and endured it. They endured the inhuman pain to build a terrifying body. Duo Sha, Anye Ying, Yin Tianjue, and the others had joined the Heavenly General Guards because they had seen how terrifying Yi Piaoling and Qingguyu's physical bodies were. Now, they had gotten what they wanted. They had obtained the divine lightning body tempering in the ancient, desolate space. They were all glad that they had made the choice back then. The Silver Fox, Silver-Winged Demon Eagle, Domineering Mastiff, Blue Flame Red Leopard, and other beasts could also be tempered by Du Xiaofu's sacred body art. However, the consumption of Du Xiaofu's saint body art to refine his demonic beast body was even greater. 8 days later, the little tiger finally arrived at the Alpha Hall of Spirit Realm's 7-star hall. Lin Wei Qi, Dongli Diao, and the others returned with the experts from the various halls. The Imperial Pivot Hall sent people to wait for them. Among them, there were people who had seen the Little Tiger and Du Shaoqing in the sealed ancient land. Therefore, when Little Tiger and Du Shaoqing appeared in the vicinity of Alpha Hall, they were immediately recognized and brought back to Alpha Hall. At the back mountain of Dubhe Hall, a beautiful middle-aged woman sat cross-legged on a rock atop a pavilion at the peak of a mountain. Her beautiful figure was moving, and although she seemed to be middle-aged, her bearing was refined as if she was untainted by the mortal world, causing others to exclaim in admiration. It's been so many days, and that kid still hasn't returned. Could something have happened to him? Should we go and take a look? Inside the pavilion, a burly old man was pacing back and forth, looking very worried. A formless aura spread out from his body, spreading out for no reason. It was incomparably vast. In Alpha Hall, there was no one else who could have such a terrifying aura other than the Hall Master of Alpha Hall, Kuang Zun. Big brother, why are you still so restless? Xiaofu has experts by his side, so there shouldn't be any problems. When he's done with those things, he will naturally rush back. Yuxinzi said to Kuang Zun, her green palace dress fluttering in the air. Although there wasn't much aura spreading out from her body, one look at her would feel as if they were looking at the boundless universe, unfathomable, and faintly enough to make one's soul throb. As her voice fell, Yuxinzi seemed to sense something and raised her eyes slightly to look into the distance. Seeing Yuxinzi's attention, Kuang Zun was slightly startled. Then, he followed Yuxinzi's gaze and saw several figures in the distance approaching Alpha Hall. Haha, it should be that talented kid who has returned. Fourth brother's eyes are as sharp as ever. He has taken in a good disciple and brought glory to the 7-star hall. Kuang Zun laughed, overjoyed. Big brother, don't forget that the kid is Xiahou Fenglei's disciple, not yours, Yuxinzi said to Kuang Zun with a smile. Fourth brother's disciple is my disciple. It's the same. Kuang Zun didn't care. After all, they were all disciples of the 7-star hall. As for whose disciple it was, he didn't care. Greetings, eldest uncle, second uncle. A moment later, Du Xiaofu, who had just come out of the ancient desolate space, bowed to Kuang Zun and Yuxinzi. His face was slightly pale, and his aura was somewhat weak. What's wrong with you? Kuang Zun immediately became nervous when he sensed Du Xiaofu's aura and saw Du Xiaofu's pale face. Eldest uncle, I've overexerted myself. It's not a big deal. In fact, I've gained some benefits. Du Xiaofu smiled. During this period of time in the ancient desolate space, he had displayed the secret weapon art for everyone. The constant overexertion had actually benefited his Yuan spirit. That's good. Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, Kuang Zun let out a sigh of relief. Then, he patted Du Xiaofu's shoulder and laughed. Good boy, 1 against 10. Let's see if the 9 great forces still dare to be arrogant in front of the 7-star hall in the future. The 7-star hall has never been so proud. Du Xiaofu smiled apologetically, not knowing what to say at this moment. It's good that you're fine. Don't worry about your eldest uncle. He's always like this when he's happy. Yuxinzi stood up and looked at Du Xiaofu with a smile. Did you get the Yin Spirit Crystal?
Yes.
Du Xiaofu nodded, and the jade box containing the Yin Spirit Crystal appeared in his palm from his Chinquin bag. Then, he gently handed it over to second senior Master Yu. Fairy Yu opened the jade box, and a majestic energy fluctuation came out. A palm-sized gloomy ball of light that looked like a dark jade appeared in the jade box. Runes flashed, causing one's primordial spirit to tremble incessantly. Yin Spirit Crystal, and it's the best Yin Spirit Crystal.
Yes.
Yuxinzi's eyes were filled with surprise, and her heart trembled with excitement. With this Yin Spirit Crystal, fourth brother will be able to recover. Kuang Zun was also very happy. My 2 uncles, when can you help Master suppress the evil spirits? Du Xiaofu asked Kuang Zun and Yuxinzi, hoping that his master could recover as soon as possible. You also need to help suppress the evil spirits. You're the most important one. Yuxinzi's expression turned serious as she put away the Yin Spirit Crystal. Then, she frowned slightly and asked Du Xiaofu, your aura is extraordinary. It's so hidden that even I can't be sure. How strong are you now? The peak of the Martial Path Martial Emperor Realm and the peak of the 7 Stars Mysterious Talisman Dao. I should be able to break through to the next level. Du Xiaofu smiled and said, as for my strength, I've already killed many martial saints who have just become martial saints. You brat. When Kuang Zun heard Du Xiaofu's last sentence, he couldn't help but be shocked. He stared at Du Xiaofu and said, it seems that you've gained a lot of benefits from the sealed ancient lands. I've gained a lot. Du Xiaofu smiled. Thinking about the benefits he had gained from the sealed ancient lands, it was really amazing. The stronger you are, the better. When the time comes, you'll be more confident. Yu Xinzi smiled and looked at Du Xiaofu. 3 days later, you'll help your master suppress the evil spirits. When the time comes, your master's primordial spirit will be freed and he'll be able to recover. You have to rest well during these 3 days. Okay, Du Xiaofu nodded. He could finally prepare for his master's recovery. By the way, Xiaofu, we found some information about the fella who pretended to be your 5th junior master. GMO Kuang Zun looked at Du Xiaofu and suddenly said softly, we found out who he is. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu's eyes flashed with coldness. Back then, that fella had attacked his master, Weapon Lord. Later on, he had attacked him. When he left the sealed ancient lands, that fella had attacked him again. If not for his big brother, Jin Qingchun, who had arrived in time, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Although Du Xiaofu knew that his strength had increased tremendously and he could take on a normal mysterious martial saint, it was still not enough when compared to the yellow-robed old man. However, he had to find out the background of this person first. If he had the chance in the future, he naturally wouldn't let it go. That fella is called the Een Thunder Old Man. He's a powerhouse who's more famous than us. We don't know how long he's been alive. Speaking of the Een Thunder Old Man, Yu Xinzi frowned and said, we found out that the Een Thunder Old Man seems to have joined the devil religion. Devil religion. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu was stunned. He was unfamiliar with this force and asked, what force is this? Even your second senior uncle and I don't know much about the devil religion. We only know that the devil religion is a terrifying force. However, it's hidden very deeply and has existed for a long time. The 9 forces should know more about it than us. If you have the chance, you can ask the ancient heaven sect. Kuang Zun frowned and said to Du Xiaofu, this devil religion doesn't only exist in the central region. It's said that they were everywhere in the other regions. However, they didn't dare to show themselves because they were afraid of some terrifying forces and clans in this world. They have always been silent in the dark. I didn't expect them to target our 7-star hall. Other regions? There are other regions in this world? Du Xiaofu was stunned when he heard Kuang Zun's words. The central region was so vast that he probably hadn't even traveled 1/10 of it. Listening to Kuang Zun's words, it seemed that the central region wasn't the only region in this world. This shocked Du Xiaofu. Do you think there's only one central region in this world? Kuang Zun looked at Du Xiaofu and smiled. This world is so vast. The central region is only one of the many Kyushu. There are also countless dangerous places, secret places, and barren places that no one has ever set foot in. Chapter 982. There are 9 prefectures in the world. The area of each prefecture is no less than that of the central prefecture. The forces in each prefecture are huge. They are not inferior to the 3 sects, 3 schools, 1 valley, and 2 religions of the central prefecture. In this world, there are countless hidden forces and experts. Kuang Zun looked at Du Xiaofu and said, the devil religion has a strange origin and is unfathomable. It seems that they have their eyes on you and your master. Maybe it's not because of the purple gold heavenly palace that your master refined, so you must be careful. Devil religion. Du Xiaofu's eyes widened. If it wasn't for the purple gold heavenly palace, he wouldn't know why the devil religion had their eyes on him and his master. Du Xiaofu thought to himself. The next time he went to the ancient heaven sect, he must ask his master Gu Qingyang and his senior brother if they knew about the origin of the devil religion. Eldest uncle, how are things between us and the divine light court? Du Xiaofu asked. From Sima Muhan and his master Gu Qingyang, he already knew that the 7-star hall and the divine light court were at war, and the situation seemed to be quite intense. Hearing this, Kuang Zun's expression changed slightly. The divine light court's strength seems to have increased a lot in recent years. The seven-star hall has received news that the Divine Light Court seems to have hidden traces of other forces. Kuang Zun paused for a moment, then smiled at Du Xiaofu and said, "But we don't have to worry about the Divine Light Court. The Divine Light Court won't be able to produce a second ancestor of the Divine Light Court. The current strength of the Divine Light Court is not enough to deal with the seven-star hall. Your fifth uncle should be about to succeed in his breakthrough soon. When your master recovers, we'll have the time to make the Divine Light Court disappear." As his voice fell, a cold light flashed in Kuang Zun's eyes. Du Xiaofu smiled. It seemed that his eldest uncle's temper wasn't too good. Recently, there had been a lot of things to do in the seven-star hall. When everything was settled, he would probably deal with the Divine Light Court. The most important thing for you now is to prepare to help your master suppress the soul of the murderous weapon in 3 days, Yu Xinzi said to Du Xiaofu.
Yes.
Du Xiaofu nodded. It's said that the Divine Light Court and you have some grudges. When your master and your fifth uncle's breakthrough, whether it's because of the seven-star hall or because of you, we will settle the Divine Light Court. And we, old guys, we will stand behind you. The seven-star hall will also, the seven-star hall, Kuang Zun patted on Xiaofu. Zun's was it? Were the was there? Was the you, we, the you or you, the seven master or you or you? We, the as well you, the you, we you, of the divine I. Du Xiaofu nodded and left. That boy is truly ferocious. I've heard that Lin Weiqi, Dongli Diao, Sun Tian, and the other members of the younger generation have all accepted him wholeheartedly. Now that the news has spread, the Seven Stars Palace will be merged into one. In the future, the burden of the Seven Stars Palace will fall onto his shoulders. Kuang Zun looked at the back of the purple-robed young man with a smile. You're anxious. After all, he is still young. It may be too tiring for him to bear such a big burden. Yu Xinzi's eyebrows relaxed, a smile in her eyes. She had no objection to Du Xiaofu being the young master of the seven-star halls. Haha, I have to be anxious. If I don't hurry up, I reckon some old foxes of the ancient sky sect will do something. Kuang Zun grinned proudly. Mountain Peak, courtyard, room. This was the core of the Alpha Hall, surrounded by Phantom, Bloodvine Spirit, Beast Killer, and Hun Xie. In the room, Du Xiaofu brought Du Xiaoqing and Little Tiger into the ancient desolate space. With Little Tiger's terrifying physique and the bloodline of the dark, heavenly tiger, Du Xiaofu did not need to use the sacred body art. He just let Little Tiger enter the purple lightning profound cauldron to be refined by the divine thunder. And Du Xiaoqing, under Du Xiaofu's arrangement, entered the enlightenment realm to comprehend. Phew! In the misty ancient desolate space, Du Xiaofu sat cross-legged, deep in thought. Then, he exhaled a mouthful of turbid air, and a determined look appeared on his face. He murmured softly, "Mother, sister, father, it won't be long before I set foot in that clan again. No matter how strong that clan is, wait for me." Du Xiaofu waited quietly for a while, then stuffed some elixirs into his mouth, formed a hand seal, and began to cultivate. A moment later, Du Xiaofu's body was enveloped in a white light. His aura was ancient, like a divine light. Recently, Du Xiaofu's focus had been on martial arts because he had been in the sealed ancient lands. But now that his spiritual root had awakened, coupled with the effect of the mysterious cultivation technique, Du Xiaofu felt that his cultivation of talisman Taoism was getting twice the result with half the effort. Especially for the power of his primordial spirit, the progress was extremely fast. Recently, he had used the Saint Body art to refine the body for everyone. Time and time again, he consumed and then recovered. Recently, Du Xiaofu also felt signs of another breakthrough. 3 days later, he would have to suppress the soul of the murderous weapon to free his master's primordial spirit. At this moment, Du Xiaofu also wanted to take the opportunity to try to break through. If he could make further progress in talisman Taoism, he would naturally be more confident. Outside the spirit domain, the entire central continent was getting more and more excited. Forces big and small rushed to the ancient land in front of the divine Thunder Mountain to search for treasures. There were constantly people who had found treasures, and some people had obtained inheritances. This made everyone's eyes turn red with envy, and they all crowded into the ancient land. And in this lively atmosphere, the news that 6 martial revered masters of the Divine Light Court and hundreds of elite disciples of the Great Wheel sect had been killed by Du Xiaofu in the Stone Dragon Empire also spread and shook the central continent. The 7-star hall had merged into one. The chief hall master was Dong Zhiyin, the mad revered, and the young hall master was Du Xiaofu, the disciple of the weapon-revered Xiahou Fenglei. He was also the junior brother of Sima Taxing, the master of the ancient Heaven sect. When this news spread, many forces, big and small, had to stop thinking about it. In the entire central continent, the 2 hottest topics were the appearance of the sealed ancient land and Du Xiaofu. At night, the stars in the sky were like scales rippling in the sea, flickering. The mountains were boundless, and the giant cities were all covered by the curtain of night. It was like a black dragon winding across the horizon. The mountains overlapped, and the palaces stood tall, as if a heavenly palace had descended to the mortal world. The opportunity has come. It's time to act. In a huge palace, a strange light spread out, and a dignified and indifferent voice sounded. A figure wrapped in lightning appeared, and the person's face could not be seen clearly. Electric arcs rippled around this person, and the light was like a miniature lightning ball. The surrounding electric arcs flickered like silver snakes and enveloped his entire body. A terrifying pressure spread out, and it was destructive and domineering. When this person stood there, no one dared to approach and could only look up. Envoy, Xiahou Fenglei's primordial spirit should be in Du Xiaofu's body. Our people have discovered that Du Xiaofu has already arrived at Alpha Hall. Even he might have a type of spiritual lightning on him. In the hall, a yellow-robed old man spoke. His deep eyes seemed to flicker with some electric arcs, and his aura was fierce. If Du Xiaofu was here, he would definitely recognize this person. This was the yellow-robed old man who had pretended to be 5th Senior Uncle Ji Mo's minister in the Alioth Hall, and attacked him at the entrance of the sealed ancient land. His eldest senior uncle had found out that he was called the Lightning Old Man, and was a terrifying expert who had been famous for a long time. However, at this moment, the Lightning Old Man was extremely respectful in front of the mysterious lightning figure, and there was even an imperceptible fear. Alpha Hall. The lightning figure moved, and then lightning shot out from his eyes like a sea of lightning. He said, "The matter of Xiahou Fenglei has been delayed for so long, and we can't delay it any longer. The descendants of that clan have been found, and the world is about to change. We have to gather everything we need as soon as possible. Let's do it." Envoy, are you going to do it yourself? There was a third person in the center of the hall. He was an old man who looked to be in his 70s, and his voice was dignified and powerful. His eyes were dazzling, and it was as if he could look down on the world and shake the entire central continent. However, at this moment, this old man was equally respectful to the lightning figure. It's not good to expose the devil religion. Your Divine Light Court is fighting with the 7-star hall, so you should do it yourself. No matter what price you have to pay, you must bring back Xiahou Fenglei's primordial spirit. Also, bring back Du Xiaofu, the lightning figure said lightly. Envoy, the 7-star hall is not weak. If we want to take down the 7-star hall, I'm afraid we will have to pay a heavy price. The old man in his 70s secretly gritted his teeth. He still had some misgivings about the 7-star hall. Divine Light, we were able to turn the Divine Light Palace from a second-rate force into a first-rate force in the central continent in just a few decades. We were able to turn you from an oil lamp to your current cultivation level. You have to know that all of this was given to you by us. If you don't want it, I can take it back at any time. The lightning figure said indifferently, and a terrifying and destructive aura fluctuated, causing the entire hall to tremble for no reason. Envoy, please don't be angry. I'm just worried about bringing too much loss to the Divine Light Court. Of course, I won't forget that the entire Divine Light Palace was given to me by you. Hearing this, the old man in his 70s expression changed slightly. After hesitating for a moment, he continued, in addition, we encountered an accident this time, and the Imperial Dragon Chi of the Stone Dragon Empire has been taken away by someone else. Who took away the imperial dragon chi of the stone dragon palace? Hearing this, the lightning figure's eyes darkened. It could be someone from the Great Lewin sect, the old man in his 70s said with a slight frown. The Great Lewin sect seems to be related to that clan. The lightning figure was silent for a moment. Then, he said in an indifferent and dignified voice, "Divine Light, bring back Xiahou Fenglei's primordial spirit. I will remember this as a big blow to you. You have always wanted to break through the last step. When the time comes, you will have a chance. In addition, I will ask Yinlei to help you." "Thank you, Envoy." The old man in his 70s was delighted to hear this. Chapter 983. Get Xiahou Fenglei's Yuan spirit back as soon as possible. As soon as the indifferent and dignified voice fell, the lightning figure disappeared from the hall along with the fluctuation of the silver lightning snake's light. "Shengguang, inform me when you're ready. I'll bring some people to help you. Xiahou Fenglei's Yuan spirit cannot be harmed again." After the Yin lightning old man finished speaking, he disappeared into thin air. Looking at the disappearing figure and the Yin lightning old man, a cold glint flashed across the old man's eyes. He muttered to himself, "Where is the item in Tianwu Academy? If I can obtain it, I won't have to be controlled by you." In the desolate ancient space in the courtyard, Du Xiaofu's body was surrounded by a dazzling white light. The space around him was blurry, and there was an unknown source of energy rippling through it. This energy continuously flowed into Du Xiaofu's body and gathered in his Yuan spirit in his Naiwan palace. As the energy absorbed by his Yuan spirit grew stronger and stronger, the surroundings of the misty space gradually became more and more intense. A formless wave that was invisible to the naked eye began to quietly spread out, and finally spread throughout the entire misty space. Boom! At the same time, in the seven-star hall, the energy of heaven and earth gathered around Du Xiaofu's courtyard. It started to ripple violently and eventually spread throughout the entire space. As the energy spread out, it caused the surrounding space to ripple. It immediately attracted the attention of many Alpha Hall disciples. The energy was extremely strange. It gave off an ancient aura. Many spiritual beasts within the Alpha Hall sensed something and let out low growls. What a powerful Yuan spirit. There's also the aura of an extraordinary spiritual root. It's coming from where that brat is. Is that brat breaking through? On the mountain peak, Kuang Zun appeared. He looked at the courtyard where Du Xiaofu was. His eyes flickered as he muttered, "What an unfathomable brat." In the desolate ancient space, Du Xiaofu was completely immersed in his cultivation. Unknowingly, Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit in his Naiwan palace was undergoing tremendous changes. The primordial spirit was condensed from one's spirit and soul. Spirit and soul were the most ethereal and illusory things, but they were the foundation of any living being. They were real existences. For a spiritual talisman master, only when he reached the level of a 7-star spiritual talisman master could the soul in his Naiwan palace condense into a physical object and transform into a primordial spirit. The stronger one's soul power was, the stronger one's primordial spirit would be. It was rumored that those top spirit talisman masters could move mountains and seas with a single thought when they used the power of the primordial spirit. Time passed slowly. In the desolate ancient space, time was controlled by Du Xiaofu to be 10 times faster. Everyone was cultivating and comprehending to their heart's content. There was no need to worry about time. In the outside world, 3 days passed slowly and quietly. At dusk, the setting sun shrouded the sky. In the courtyard at the peak of the mountain, Phantom was dressed in bright red. She leaned against the wooden corridor in the courtyard. Her graceful body drew an alluring arc in the afterglow of the sunset. The arc in front of her was white and white, forming a full and deep cleavage. If the young men in Alpha Hall saw this scene, they would probably have a nosebleed. What a powerful primordial spirit! Looking at the energy gathering at the peak of the mountain, Han Xie raised his head slightly. The faint, blood-red light in his eyes revealed his shock. Walala! As Han Xie's voice fell, a loud explosion sounded in the sky. The energy surged wildly and shook the 9 heavens. An invisible and vast primordial spirit power spread out from the peak of the mountain like a tide. It swept out in all directions at lightning speed. So powerful. It's actually not weaker than us. Feeling the terrifying primordial spirit power, Shosha's expression changed. His eyes flashed with shock. The spirit root is very powerful. Not far away, Jiangchen stood quietly. Feeling the vast primordial spirit power released from the room, the spirit root's aura moved him even more. Third young master has made a breakthrough again. Phantom smiled gently. Her smile was so moving that it was enough to make any man lose their soul. What a powerful spirit root. In Alpha Hall, the vast primordial spirit power spread out in all directions in the air. At this moment, many Alpha Hall disciples could feel the terrifying spirit root pressure. The spirit root in their Niwen palace trembled slightly. Not only is this kid's physical body strong, even his primordial spirit is not ordinary. His spirit root is also not ordinary. He is really abnormal. Not far away, Fairy Yu's figure quietly appeared in the sky. She smiled faintly. Her temperament was untainted by the mortal world. Around the courtyard, the terrifying primordial spirit power spread out like a tide. It only spread for a while before it slowly dissipated. The next morning, Du Xiaofu walked out of his room. Facing the morning sun, he bathed in the morning light. There was a smile on his determined face. He looked extraordinary. Third young master, Phantom, Shou Sha, Hunxia, and Bloodvine Sha bowed. Sensing the formless aura spreading from the purple-robed young man, Phantom and the others inwardly trembled. The former's spirit root aura fluctuated as if he had just made a breakthrough. Even their hearts trembled when they felt it. No need for formalities. Although you will follow me for 100 years, there is no need to be overly courteous, Du Xiaofu said to the four of them. Then he walked over to Jiangchen and said, "Let's go. You should be able to take out your corpse core to deal with the spirit root today. This is what I promised you." Okay. Jiangchen nodded slightly. His deep, pitch-black eyes glowed. His corpse core leaving his body was an extremely dangerous thing for him. If it wasn't Jiangchen, but another zombie, it probably wouldn't have lasted until now. Moments later, at the back of Alpha Hall, a towering mountain pierced the clouds. It was an imposing sight. Swoosh swoosh, Du Xiaofu and Jiangchen landed on the mountain peak. There were already 3 people waiting for them. Of the 3 figures, one looked to be in his 60s and was dressed as a medicine talisman master. Another looked to be in his 40s and wore a purple robe with patterns on it. Even his hair was purple. The last was an old man in his 70s. He was well-built, and his robe was embroidered with star patterns. He looked like a living creature and emanated an oppressive aura. The 3 of them stood quietly on the mountain peak. Invisible energy rippled around them, causing the space around them to faintly distort. They gave off an extremely dangerous feeling. Du Xiaofu stared blankly at the 3 people in front of him. Then, a look of pleasant surprise appeared on his face. He immediately bowed and said, "Greetings, 3rd Martial Uncle, 6th Martial Uncle, and 7th Martial Uncle." These 3 people were the Tianji Hall's venerated Pill, the Mizar Hall's venerated Purple Tianzuan, and the Alcade Hall's venerated Qian Xing. Du Xiaofu guessed that these 3 martial uncles had appeared in Alpha Hall because of his master's primordial spirit. Seeing venerated Pill, venerated Purple Tianzuan, and venerated Qian Xing, and sensing their auras, Jiangchen was secretly moved. "Haha, good boy. You've brought honor to the 7-star hall. You're worthy of being 4th brother's disciple." Upon seeing Du Xiaofu, venerated Purple Tianzuan smiled and patted Du Xiaofu's shoulder. His facial features were sculpted, and it was obvious that he must have been handsome when he was young. Even now, his temperament was extraordinary and he exuded the air of a noble ruler. Among the 7 hall masters of the 7-star hall, venerated Purple Tianzuan's cultivation and strength had always been at the forefront. It was not easy for him to acknowledge Du Xiaofu from the bottom of his heart. In the future, when the people from the 9 great forces see the 7-star hall, they won't be arrogant. Venerated Qian Xing smiled. He looked to be in his 70s, but his body was still muscular. His long robe was embroidered with star patterns, and it looked like a living creature. "All right, let's go in." Your great martial uncle and second martial uncle have already made arrangements inside. Venerated Pill smiled at Du Xiaofu. Then, he flicked his sleeve, and a spatial fluctuation spread out. The mysterious patterns on the talisman fluctuated, and they entered. A seal. Du Xiaofu's eyes moved. It was an extremely powerful seal. Judging from the traces of its aura, it seemed to have been set up by Fairy Yu. Don't be in a daze. This seal was set up by your second martial uncle to suppress the spirit of the weapon. It should cause a big commotion, so we need to seal this space. Venerated Purple Tianzuan said to Du Xiaofu, and then pulled Du Xiaofu into the seal. Everyone entered, and the space fluctuated. There were other small tricks in this seal as well. Soon after, everyone appeared in a rather empty space. Kuang Zun and Yu Xinzi were already waiting for them. At this moment, beside Fairy Yu, there was a man in his 50s sitting cross-legged. His long black hair draped over his shoulders, and a red robe covered his body. He had a wide forehead and a square face, but there was no vitality in his body. Only a rune between his eyebrows remained. There seemed to be lightning flashing faintly, maintaining the last trace of vitality. Master! Du Xiaofu stepped forward. It was the physical body of his master, venerated weapon. You're all here? Then let's get ready. Fairy Yu looked at Du Xiaofu, Jiangxin, and venerated Pill. She frowned slightly, and her expression was grave. She said, his primordial spirit is suppressing the evil spirit in the purple-gold heavenly palace. Once it is affected, I'm afraid that he and the evil spirit will both be injured. In the worst case, his weapon will be destroyed and his primordial spirit will die. So, we must be careful. With our strength, suppressing the evil spirit shouldn't be too much of a problem. Venerated Kuang frowned and looked worriedly at Du Xiaofu. He said, but I don't know if Xiaofu can resist it. The key lies with Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu knew what venerated Kuang meant. If they joined forces, they would naturally be able to suppress the evil spirit. However, if they forcefully suppressed the evil spirit, the purple-gold heavenly palace would be destroyed or damaged. The best way was to let the new weapon spirit grow stronger. Only then would it have a chance to devour the evil spirit. Du Xiaofu smiled and said to venerated Kuang and the others, don't worry, Uncle Masters. I will do my best. My new weapon spirit in the purple-gold heavenly palace has obtained some benefits in the sealed ancient land. I'm afraid it won't be much weaker than the evil spirit. Chapter 984. With that, Du Xiaofu untied the square box on his back. Boom! The purple-gold heavenly tower appeared, accompanied by the roars of dragons, tigers, birds, and tortoises. Dazzling talisman runes shot up into the sky from the body of the sword. Terrifying power erupted like a volcano, shaking the entire sealed space and causing rumbling sounds to ring out. Du Xiaofu held the purple-gold heavenly tower in his hand. The terrifying aura it emitted was like a peerless divine weapon awakening. An invisible baleful aura was suppressed within the sword, unable to leak out. The new weapon spirit is so powerful. Alchemy Senior was surprised. She had personally inspected the purple-gold heavenly tower before, so she could feel the changes in it. Du Xiaofu then told Kuang Zun, Yu Xinzi, and Alchemy Senior about Jiangxin's corpse core and the weapon spirit in the weapon space. It's a zombie body. No wonder its aura is so strange. Alchemy Senior, Yu Xinzi, and Kuang Zun looked at Jiangxin. They finally knew his identity. It's your great fortune to be able to obtain such a weapon spirit. It seems like our chances of success are much higher. Yu Xinzi smiled faintly. The new artifact spirit was directly transformed from the powerful artifact spirit. With such a powerful artifact spirit, it was naturally much easier to deal with the ominous weapon spirit. Then let's begin. Let's not delay, and let Old Four recover. Amethyst Venerable said with a smile. Xiaofu, your great martial uncle, fifth martial uncle and seventh martial uncle will suppress the purple-gold heavenly tower from the outside. Your third martial uncle and I will enter the purple-gold heavenly tower with our primordial spirits and suppress the evil spirit together. Your primordial spirit will follow us in and control the new weapon spirit to destroy the evil spirit. Yu Xinzi said to Du Xiaofu. When suppressing the evil spirit, my corpse core might be able to help. Jiangqin said to Du Xiaofu. He couldn't enter the purple gold heavenly tower with his primordial spirit, but he could control his corpse core from the outside. Of course, this required someone to suppress the evil spirit. Then let's begin. As soon as Kuang Zun's voice fell, he, Zi Tianzuan, and Qian Xing all moved in unison. Hand seals condensed in the center of their palms, turning into dazzling talisman runes. Powerful energy fluctuations distorted the space around them. Finally, a net of light covered the purple-gold heavenly palace. Roar! Within the violet-gold heavenly palace, the roars of dragons and tigers resounded, bringing about the sound of wind and thunder. The body of the sword clanged, the violet-gold light spilled out, and the runes flowed, causing the surrounding space to rumble and tremble violently. Walala! At this moment, the fierce spirit within the purple-gold heavenly palace seemed to have sensed something. It began to emit a surging, baleful aura. The frightening, baleful aura that spread out immediately caused one's heart to palpitate and his soul to tremble. Do it. Enter the purple-gold heavenly palace with your primordial spirit. Seeing this, Alchemy Venerate sat down with his legs crossed. A stream of light flew out from his glabella, and a small body that was identical to his original body flew out like a baby. It was rippling with a terrifying primordial spirit aura. It was Alchemy Venerate's primordial spirit. It was wrapped in runes, and the spiritual fluctuations were powerful enough to distort the surrounding space. Fairy Yu moved next. Light flickered between her glabella, and her primordial spirit body also appeared. The terrifying fluctuations were not any weaker than Alchemy Venerate's. Du Xiaofu sat down with his legs crossed. He formed a hand seal and closed his eyes. Dazzling runes spread out from his glabella, slowly appearing in front of everyone's eyes. The light faded, and a figure appeared. Upon closer inspection, it was Du Xiaofu's appearance. However, compared to Du Xiaofu's body, this figure was like a baby. It was also extremely illusory. This illusory Du Xiaofu had an ancient and boundless aura. It even had a unique violet gold color, which was the result of being refined by the purple gold profound bomb. At this moment, the aura of this illusory Du Xiaofu was not as strong as Fairy Yu's and Alchemy Venerate's primordial spirits. However, the fluctuation of the aura made Kuang Zun, Fairy Yu, Alchemy Venerate, Zi Tianzuan, and Qian Xing's expressions change. How can a 7-star talisman master have such a strong primordial spirit? It is comparable to an 8-star talisman master. That aura is even more extraordinary. The primordial spirit of the pill Venerate could feel the pressure of the soul aura emanating from Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit. Even with his cultivation and knowledge, he could not help but be astonished. All right, let's go in. Fairy Yu's primordial spirit spoke. Then, her primordial spirit body turned into a divine light. Like a bolt of lightning, she swept straight into the purple-gold heavenly palace, which was suspended in midair by Kuang Zun, Zi Tianzuan, and Qian Xing Qi. Alchemy Venerate and Du Xiaofu's primordial spirits followed closely behind. The space was dark and gloomy, and there were many dazzling runes soaring into the sky. The oppressive aura was like a volcanic eruption. You can't trap me. You can't trap me. In the dazzling runes in the distance, there were gusts of wind and thunder. Ghosts were crying and gods were howling. There was a terrifying demonic aura sweeping across. Suppress. In the dazzling runes, there was a terrifying aura fluctuating. The runes were spreading, and the soul power was surging. That was a primordial spirit seal. In front of the dazzling runes, there was a pale golden ball of light the size of a baby's fist. The dazzling pale golden runes were dazzling like fireworks. However, the pale golden ball of light was enveloped by an extremely demonic aura that was about to devour it. The demonic aura seemed to have come from the underworld. It was about to break free from the suppression of the primordial spirit seal. The demonic aura swept across as if it came from the demonic realm. It was about to devour the pale golden ball of light. Qi. 3 illusory figures of primordial spirits appeared in the space. The 3 auras fell and immediately caused the space to fluctuate. Who is it? There was a loud roar from within the demonic aura. Third brother, Fairy Yu. Why are you here? Xiaofu is my disciple. You are able to condense your primordial spirit. You have made great progress in your cultivation. There was a voice in the primordial spirit seal. On the seal, an illusory figure appeared happily. It was the primordial spirit of Xiahou Fenglei. Greetings, master. Looking at the primordial spirit, Du Xiaofu was delighted. Fourth brother, it's time for us to lend you a hand. Alchemy master smiled when he saw weapon master. He was very happy. Let's talk later. First brother, sixth brother, and seventh brother, suppress the primordial spirit outside. Let's get down to business, Fairy Yu said to weapon master. Looking at the demonic aura in the primordial spirit seal, her illusory eyes narrowed. Okay, let's talk later. Weapon master Xiahou Fenglei smiled. Seeing that Fairy Yu and alchemy master were with Du Xiaofu, he could more or less guess what was going on outside. Compared to his initial worst-case scenario, the current situation was much better. This evil spirit is not easy to deal with. I don't know where the zombie core came from, but it has ruined my plan. If it devours it, I won't be able to suppress it anymore. I'm afraid that I won't be able to stop it from devouring the zombie core. Weapon Master said, the zombie core was extraordinary. If it was devoured by the evil spirit, it would be like adding wings to a tiger. The zombie core is my mistake. Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly. He had used the purple gold heavenly palace to deal with Jiangxin. In the end, the evil spirit took the opportunity to take away Jiangxin's zombie core. The zombie core is extraordinary. Fortunately, it hasn't fallen into the evil spirit's body. Weapon Master said with a serious expression. He then said to Fairy Yu and Weapon Master, you are here. First brother, sixth brother, and seventh brother are also outside. It won't be too difficult to suppress and destroy the evil spirit. However, I'm afraid that it will destroy the weapon I refined. Master, don't worry. The purple gold heavenly palace won't be destroyed. Du Xiaofu smiled. With a thought, the new weapon spirit of the purple gold heavenly palace appeared in front of him. Wang. It was an illusory purple gold heavenly palace. Vast and mighty pressure spread out with an ancient aura. The sound of wind and thunder surged and clanged. This was the new weapon spirit of Du Xiaofu's purple gold heavenly palace. It was sealed in the weapon space of the ancient land and condensed from countless weapon spirits. Du Xiaofu hadn't used the new weapon spirit to help his master seal the evil spirit. He was afraid that if he was careless, it would be more of a hindrance than a help. The seal of the original spirit was no small matter. If there was a mistake, the weapon master's original spirit would be greatly affected or even severely injured. At this moment, the new weapon spirit's aura was the opposite of the evil spirit's. The evil spirit's aura was monstrous. The new weapon spirit was both good and evil, but its aura was definitely not much weaker than the evil spirit's. Why is this weapon spirit so strong? The weapon master saw the new weapon spirit in the purple gold heavenly palace and felt the vigorous aura that was both good and evil. He was extremely shocked. He could feel that the new weapon spirit was extraordinary. It's not that easy to do anything to me. The evil spirit roared. At this moment, it also sensed the danger. Suddenly, a fierce aura burst out. It was so terrifying that it made the surroundings feel like it was being destroyed. Rumble. At the same time, the space trembled. Countless talismans and mysterious runes appeared above the void like a heavenly net, suppressing the void space. Mad Master and the others have already made their move. Let's begin. Yu Xinzi's original spirit looked up and said to Du Xiaofu softly, we will help your master suppress the evil spirit. You control the new weapon spirit and take the opportunity to destroy the evil spirit. Be careful. Du Xiaofu nodded. Around the body of the original spirit, an ancient aura fluctuated and a faint purple-gold color swept past. Then let's do it. The alchemy master's original spirit shouted and formed a hand seal. A large number of talismans and mysterious runes fluctuated and turned into a dazzling light. Finally, like a thunderbolt, it wrapped around the evil spirit that was sealed in the weapon master's original spirit. Swish! Yu Xinzi made her move at the same time. The dazzling light was like the brightest star. It turned into a talisman light and suddenly enveloped the evil spirit. "You can't do anything to me." At the same time, the evil spirit roared and emitted a dazzling light. It formed a terrifying vortex of evil spirit. The evil spirit's aura swept out like a hurricane. Under the terrifying evil spirit's aura, an ordinary person who had just become a martial honor would have their soul shattered. "Brothers, Xiaoyu has a date tonight. He took a break for one night. Today, he has 2 chapters. If he comes back early, he will make up for it tonight. If he comes back late, he can only come back tomorrow." Chapter 985. The space trembled as a terrifying demonic aura rippled wildly, devouring the energy of heaven and earth. It absorbed the primordial spirit seal of the weapon sovereign, as well as the primordial spirit of Yuxinzi and alchemy venerated. Under this frenzied absorption, the primordial spirits of the 3 top experts were shaken. Above the void, dazzling talisman runes released a powerful suppressive force, sealing the weapon sovereign's primordial spirit. The primordial spirits of Yuxinzi and alchemy venerated restrained the demonic vortex. "Don't think you can do anything to me." Within the demonic vortex, a dazzling light bloomed like the sun. No one dared to look directly at it. A vague, illusory head appeared in the sky, like the head of a demon god. A monstrous demonic aura swept out. The head of the demon god wanted to kill everything. Whoosh! Jiangchen's corpse core had been suppressed by the demonic spirit. Now, it finally found an opportunity. The dazzling light of golden talisman runes shone like fireworks. An extremely demonic black aura swept out, as if from the depths of hell. It broke free from the demonic spirit's suppression and began to counterattack. "Be destroyed!" the head of the demon god roared. Countless sword rays sealed the weapon sovereign's primordial spirit. Yuxinzi, alchemy venerated, and the talisman runes around them shot out. Woo woo! When the sword rays appeared, ghosts cried and gods howled. They drew streaks of purple-gold light in the sky. Like purple-gold lightning, the demonic aura descended, destroying everything. Chi. The sword light was terrifying, but under the suppression of the corpse core and the many experts, it was completely locked down by the seals. Although the demonic spirit was strong, under the suppression of several top experts, it had no choice but to be restrained. Roar! The new artifact spirit roared. At this moment, it looked at the head of the demon god formed by the demonic spirit. Ancient talisman runes bloomed, vaguely absorbing the energy of the surrounding space. It looked like it was about to pounce, shocking everyone. Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit looked up. He felt the aura of the artifact spirit fluctuating, as if it wanted to do something. The artifact spirit used to be the artifact spirit in the weapon space. It had already begun to communicate. Although it had become the artifact spirit of the purple-gold heavenly palace, it still had its own consciousness. It was just that Du Xiaofu controlled it. "You seem to be doing something. Then go." With a thought, Du Xiaofu controlled the new spirit tool to fly towards the evil spirit. Roar! The new artifact spirit roared. The demonic spirit, the divine weapon spirit, looked down on the demonic spirit. The moment Du Xiaofu activated it, it charged directly toward the demonic spirit. At this moment, the new artifact spirit soared into the sky. It completely ignored the terrifying aura that erupted from the fiend god bestial soul and instantly shot into the energy vortex around it. Not demonic spirit, demonic spirit, demonic spirit, demonic spirit. It demonic spirit's demonic spirit, the demonic dragon demonic was. Demonic was it? Although it was, it too since was, it. Retreat. Du Xiaofu's origin spirit was shocked. He immediately controlled the new artifact spirit to retreat. Although the demonic spirit was suppressed, it was not easy to destroy it. Roar! Suddenly, unexpectedly, the new artifact spirit advanced instead of retreating. The roars of dragons and tigers, the cries of birds and tortoises could be heard. The appearance of the purple-gold heavenly palace then changed. Faint shadows of the azure dragon soared into the sky. the white tiger entrenched, the phoenix flapped its wings, and the black tortoise divine turtle suppressed the world. Chi. Afterwards, all of this seemed to have turned into a bolt of lightning, directly piercing through space and landing on the head of the god fiend. With an unstoppable force, the head of the god fiend was blasted to pieces. Rumble. Space trembled, accompanied by the incessant cries of ghosts. Hum. The new artifact spirit roared. It opened its mouth like a vortex and began to devour the spirit of the demonic spirit. Everything happened as fast as lightning. Before Du Xiaofu could react, the terrifying demonic spirit had been destroyed. This change shocked the origin spirits of Honorable Refiner, Fairy Yu, and Honorable Alchemy. The demonic spirit that they had been suppressing was destroyed by the new artifact spirit so easily. It was even devouring the spirit's energy. I understand. This new artifact spirit was originally born in the space inside the sealed ancient land. It was an ancient battlefield. Countless ancient experts had divine weapons that were of a higher level than divine weapons. They fought and destroyed the divine weapons, leaving behind fragments. The remnant artifact spirits in the divine weapon fragments devoured each other to strengthen themselves over a long period of time. It became an instinct to devour. Then, this artifact spirit was born. This artifact spirit contains the power of the ancient divine weapons. Finally, it was born with intelligence. Now, this artifact spirit has become the artifact spirit of the purple gold heavenly palace. This is equivalent to its real space. That's why it can completely destroy the spirit of the demonic weapon. Honorable Alchemy's origin spirit was shocked. This artifact spirit was definitely extraordinary. Whoosh. The seal on the origin spirit of Honorable Refiner shrank, and his origin spirit body appeared. He looked at Du Xiaofu, who was still in shock, and said, "This artifact spirit is extraordinary. It can devour the energy of other artifact spirits to strengthen itself. Although the demonic spirit has been destroyed, you have to watch it completely absorb the demonic spirit's energy. Don't be careless." Okay, Du Xiaofu nodded, and his origin spirit body smiled. Back then, in the weapon space, the artifact spirit was devoured by the artifact spirit. He didn't expect that after becoming a new artifact spirit, it still maintained its terrifying devouring ability and could devour the energy of other artifact spirits to strengthen itself. Let's go out first. Fairy Yu finally stopped frowning, but her eyes were still filled with surprise. She didn't expect that the demonic spirit that was suppressed would be destroyed by the new artifact spirit. Everything was daunting but not dangerous. Finally, everyone's origin spirits flew out from the purple gold heavenly palace. Fourth brother, you've made us look for you. Seeing the origin spirit of Honorable Refiner, Honorable Mad, Honorable Purple, and Honorable Qian Xing were excited. Your corpse core. Du Xiaofu's origin spirit flew out, took out Jiangxin's corpse core, and returned it to Jiangxin. Many thanks. Jiangxin took the corpse core and swallowed it. A faint golden brilliance spread out, as if the soil had been irrigated with nutrients. His aura suddenly surged, and he quickly recovered. Fairy Yu and Honorable Pill's origin spirits returned to their original positions. Their eyes opened, and their auras rippled. Quickly return your origin spirits to your body. Your disciple has already helped you get the Een Spirit Crystal from the sealed ancient land. It's enough for you to completely recover. Yu Shenzi stood up and said to revered weapon. Her eyes were filled with complicated emotions. The Een Spirit Crystal is not easy to get. Honorable Refiner's origin spirit was stunned as he looked at Du Xiaofu's origin spirit. He knew how precious the Een Spirit Crystal was, and it wasn't easy to get it from the sealed ancient land. Xiaofu didn't just get the Een Spirit Crystal. This time, you've taken in a good disciple. Kuang Zun grinned from ear to ear. Then, he told the weapon venerable about Du Xiaofu's deeds in the sealed ancient land and the pride of the Seven Stars Hall. Good boy, but don't be complacent. Honorable Refiner's origin spirit looked at Du Xiaofu, but he wasn't as excited as Honorable Refiner. Instead, he warned Du Xiaofu, but he couldn't hide the joy in his eyes. By the way, fourth brother, we've already merged the 7 halls into one. Xiaofu is the young hall master. In the future, the 7-star hall will be handed over to Xiaofu. We're all old, Honorable Qian Xing said to Honorable Refiner. I have no objections, as long as he's willing. The venerable weapon nodded. He didn't have any opinion. Then, he looked at Kuang Zun, Venerable Dan, Venerable Zitianzuan and the others and said, but Xiaofu is still young. You can't leave him to others. You have to help him. Honorable Refiner's words showed that he was protecting his young. Of course. Honorable Refiner smiled. Fifth brother. Honorable Refiner looked at the others. Only fifth brother wasn't here. We'll talk about this later. You should recover your origin spirit first. Fairy Yu interrupted Honorable Refiner and said, Xiaofu also needs to look after the weapon spirit. Let's leave first. Okay. Honorable Refiner nodded, and then his origin spirit returned to his body. A wisp of lightning flashed between his eyebrows, and his eyes, which had been closed for thousands of years, opened. There was a flash of light like lightning, and it took a while for it to disappear. My body is still the most comfortable. Honorable Refiner stretched his body, and a crackling sound came from his body. Du Xiaofu's origin spirit returned to his body, and then he opened his eyes. He felt the aura of his master, Honorable Refiner, which seemed to be stronger than Honorable Purple Sky and the others.